Reports say the Browns coming to terms with Pro Bowler Denzel Ward on a 2-year contract extension, $62.2 million. Deal includes $52.3 million being guaranteed. Ward under contract now through 2029. Now, some have feared Ward could be the next one out the door following the Myles Garrett trade. However, last month, Ward wanted us to know he wanted to stay.
I definitely still want to be here. Myles is a good friend of mine, a great teammate, but, things aren't lost. It's Ohio against the world, so, people could doubt us, but we're going out there still trying to play our best ball and bring wins to the city.
Ward becomes the highest paid defensive back in NFL history, average salary of $31.1 million this season. Now, after veterans reported to Bree on Tuesday, today is the day the Browns hold their first full squad practice of training camp. The biggest storyline heading into camp, the battle will be the starting quarterback between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. Before practice day, we will hear from some players during the 12 o'clock hour. Then live at 12:50, head coach Todd Monken right here on 92.3 The Fan. Guardians doing a pair of games against the Reds yesterday. They win the first one 6-5. Brian Rocchio laying down a safety squeeze to score. Chase DeLauder in the top of the 8, snapped to 5 all-time. The win snapped a 5-game losing streak. Kyle Manzardo, a grand slam on the top of the first, but Slade Ciccone would blow that 4-run lead. Ciccone giving up 4 runs in 3 2/3 innings. In the nightcap, the Guardians, they lose to the Reds 2-0. Gavin Williams allowed just 2 runs on 3 hits in 7 innings, would strike out 12, matching a career high. However, still took the loss. The Guardians managed only 3 base hits. They split the doubleheader. Williams, the first Cleveland pitcher to ever have 4 consecutive starts with at least 11 strikeouts and 1 or no walks. You can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. Up next time for the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
All the hits, grunts, strains, and sprains. Training camp coverage like nobody else. The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. 92.3 The Fan. The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
We thought when they extended Myles Garrett that was the end of that. I don't know that this prohibits them from moving him, but it certainly shows a commitment to him. Look, he's certainly deserving of the contract. He's one of the best corners in the National Football League, and he's been that for a few years now. I mean, there were games last year where they wouldn't even throw on his side of the field. He's very deserving of that contract extension on the field. He has earned it and then some. A little bit of an eye-opening move the day that veterans report for training camp. That kind of came out of nowhere, but that's how Andrew Berry likes to do business. He likes to make moves like that. They come out of nowhere.
This is Cleveland Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
Oh, what a way to kick off camp. No controversy here, right? You have a really good football player, as Ken Carman would say, you sign the really good football player. The local guy.
He's a wonderful player. Really wonderful player.
The Buckeye. The wonderful player, Denzel Ward. He's ours. Nobody else can have him. Get his name out of your mouths. You wannabe negative Nancy's. Oh, trade this guy. Trade that guy. Do we have audio from me yesterday saying probably going to trade Denzel Ward? Yes, I probably said that yesterday a few times. Well, yeah, they're going to trade Denzel Ward. At what point? At some point, they're going to trade Denzel Ward. Today, we traded Ken Carman for Nick Padone. Hopefully we win that trade. Nick, how are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
It's great to have you in. Camp is in session today. What time do you think Todd Monken got in today?
Probably 2 hours ago.
Oh, easily.
Little 4 o'clock start for Todd.
I remember it was when we were getting behind the scenes back in the day of like Hugh Jackson. Even Hugh Jackson was getting in there early. He was on the treadmill.
Yeah, remember that?
He was ready to rock and roll. Which of the old shows was that? That wasn't a Hard Knocks?
I don't think it was Hard Knocks. Was that when they used to do Building the Browns?
Oh, the Building the Browns. Was it a
road tested?
Road tested when we learned the intricacies of how the Browns travel to road games.
How do you pack a bag?
I mean, how did they not get the season 2, season 3, and season 4 of that? They renew everything these days. I mean, we're going to get another task for sure. We're on season 4 of The Pit already. How did we not get a road tested? Anyway, we are so excited to have you here today because I can feel it in my veins. It's football. It's football. Today, we're going to have quarterbacks throwing passes. We're going to have nonstop charts. We're going to have even better graphics. And we are going to have essentially the equivalent of a fist fight online every day about whether that ball was a spiral and whether that was a good back shoulder throw or whether he could have let him on a little bit more and who's winning the quarterback competition second by second.
I can't wait until around noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock to start the dissecting of all of the grainy cell phone footage that will come out from Berea. Daryl Ryder, Mary Kay, among others that will be posting.
300 yards away because they're always going to be on the complete opposite side of the field.
Yeah, they try to stay, a good 10 to 20 yards in front of the ball so you could see the whole play as it unfolds. But I will be waiting with bated breath to zoom in on those videos and try to distinguish which quarterback is ahead in this thing. Because Todd wanted to have his quarterback named by today, Toad. You know what I mean? Initially he said, we want to have it out of spring camp, But then spring came and went. He wasn't ready to name a starter, and we bleed into the late summer here.
But that's lucky for us because we actually have 2 NFL quarterbacks here.
Two starting caliber
NFL quarterbacks.
Now a lot of places,
4 NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, a lot of places may have 1. Okay, like the Chiefs may have 1. The Bills, I'm sure they have 1 if you consider Josh Allen.
In Cincinnati, they've got 1.
Yeah, but he's never healthy. Baltimore has 1, but sucks in the playoffs. Folks, the Browns have not 1, but 2, and that's before we even get to see the rookie. I haven't even gotten a chance to see the rook. Could we have 3?
He's big. I was out there for the mandatory mini camp. Taylon Green, every bit of 6'6".
I'm giving us 3. Wow. And you know what? No offense. Thank you, Owen. No offense to Dylan Gabriel. I just haven't got a chance to see him. Now listen, context matters. He didn't have anything really going his way last year. So, as his fans, the Dylan Gabriel fans have been in my mentions consistently.
Coach Riz.
Oh, that's right. The Dylan Gabriel fan has been in my mentions consistently. Lima, what about context? Why haven't you given him the same opportunity that you're giving your boy Shador? When are you going to come out and admit that you're biased against Dylan Gabriel, but you're for Shador Sanders? Why do you always comment on Dylan Gabriel's fashion? You always comment on Dylan Gabriel's reality shows and about his fan base. Listen, they've been brutal. The Gabriel fans from mostly Hawaii and the American Samoa, they are relentless. I thought Shador's fans were on another level. The Dylan fans, I just can't.
Because with the Shador fans, you inherit a lot of Colorado people with the Baker Bros back in the day. You obviously, it took on a lot of people from Oklahoma. You maybe even took on some of his hometown fans from the Texas area.
True.
Gabriel's got that whole island kind of locked down, and then he's got Oregon, which I don't really hear. You don't really hear that much from the Oregon people, maybe because he played for 8 other different colleges.
Central
too.
Florida, listen, that is a burgeoning, it's one of the biggest schools in the country. And then it's like, oh, you don't like Dylan Gabriel because you don't like his dad. Because you don't like his dad and what he represented as a college football standout player. You're right. I didn't like him, okay? I didn't. For many years, I've been anti-Dylan Gabriel's dad. But you know what? Here we are. Browns camp starts today. The Denzel Ward news, we got to get right to it. So Denzel Ward signs the extension yesterday. This surprised me. And I was a little stunned, reaching an agreement on a 2-year, $62.2 million deal, including $52.3 guaranteed, makes him the highest paid DB in NFL history.
Again. This is his second time becoming the highest paid corner in NFL history.
It's surprising to me because I thought, well, if you're willing to trade Myles Garrett, then you're in the rebuild. You've got these young players, 2 consecutive, what most think, it's early, very early, as humanly possible to judge 2 rookie classes before one has even hit the field for the first time. But it seems like universally accepted by the pundits as, hey, Andrew Berry looks like he's knocked 2 draft classes out of the park. So you're going young. You're looking for as much ammo as you can over the next few years to continue that build. And until you want as many darts as you could throw at the quarterback situation. So the writing was on the wall. Denzel Ward's getting traded. Not so fast, my friend, as Denzel signed the contract. What'd you think immediately, Nick, when that went down?
I was pumped about it, obviously. Like, Denzel Ward's a good player. And I think corner...
That's your boy, right?
Nordonia High School.
Isn't that your boy?
It is my boy. So I was excited that Denzel's still in Cleveland. I really think that, like, good corners don't grow on trees. Like we were talking about it a little bit before the show. Denzel Ward's one of the top corners in the game. Is he the top corner? I'm not sure. 29 years old. I really think it comes down to this, though. You need a couple veterans scattered throughout a roster. And the Browns don't have many anymore. Like, to Andrew Berry's credit, he said in Indy at the Combine he was going to flip this thing. They were going to become one of the youngest teams in football. They are one of the youngest teams in football. You need a couple of veterans throughout a roster that have kind of been there and done that. And obviously Ward's been to the playoffs twice. He's been in this division forever. Jamar Chase constantly says he's the best corner in this division and in the league. I think there's a certain amount of second-round picks that an organization can have where they say, okay, we have enough second-round picks in our arsenal. And I think, like, right now, Denzel Ward is probably worth more to the Browns as a cornerback than as a second-round pick via trade at the deadline.
Well, I agree with that sentiment. I think everybody within the Browns Nation agrees with that sentiment. On the day camp starts, people are fired up. Denzel Ward, we've watched him since he was 15 years old. He's not going anywhere, and Browns fans are thrilled. Here we go.
Denzel Ward is entering year 9, and he's still a really good player. And obviously they think he can be a good player for a long time. And he's absolutely the kind of guy you want around. But he was already making a lot of money. I've been screaming for years that he's a top 5 corner. I'm not sure he's a top 1 corner. He's here, and this is where he's from. And he was already going to be an all-time Cleveland Brown. This just feels like the same old Browns. Denzel Ward, who's the antithesis of the guy you had to trade on June 1st. You just do what the same old Browns always do, which is just give him more money and move along. If Denzel Ward plays 3 more years at a high level and the Browns can put competent offense around him, then this was the right thing to do. But the Browns are rebuilding. This is almost inarguable. To make this kind of commitment seems like it's going to stick out like a sore thumb on the cap sheet later. The same old Browns don't care. They just spend. They don't win, but they spend.
That was from the Zach Jackson and Friends podcast. Zach Jackson says same old Browns on inking your boy, Nick Padone. By the way, Zach Jackson will be on the show at 8:20 collecting his thoughts for what should be an explosive appearance. I know he's excited about camp. He says same old Browns. You gonna text your buddy that?
I get the point that Zach is trying to make there because that is their identity. Like he isn't wrong in what he said. They have not won much. And they spend a ton. And whenever they have a problem, and the Denzel thing was a problem, like even though people don't want to say it, there was a little hold-in situation there going on in the spring. They had to figure something out. There was no guaranteed money left on that deal. They either had to trade him or do what they did yesterday and extend him. So I do get what Zach means, that when a problem arises, the Browns culture is to point to that problem and say, there's a problem. How do we fix it? We throw money at it. That's what they did in 2022 when Baker Mayfield was not the answer. And we're going to talk about Baker a little bit later in the show. They threw money at Deshaun Watson blindly, a guy that they had barely met, and it blew up in epic proportion. Myles Garrett last year, takes out his flamethrower on Radio Row and just torches the organization. They throw money at it. This year, Denzel Ward, no guaranteed money. You restructured that initial contract 500 times. A little bit of an issue. Hold-in situation in the spring. You throw money at it before training camp. I think this is a little bit different, though, because this still is a top-ranked corner in the game. If you moved on from Denzel Ward, your defensive backfield is what? Tyson Campbell, Miles Harden, D'Angelo Ross? Maybe that.
Who is that? I don't know who that is.
Damari Mathis, the guy that they signed in free agency last week. Like, they really wouldn't have had a great option in the defensive backfield if they moved on from Ward. So I'm a fan of it. It's not same old Browns because they're keeping a really good player. I feel like it would be same old Browns if they Joe Hayden this thing and got rid of Denzel Ward and tried selling us on, at least we got a top 100 draft selection.
Well, and then he went to the Steelers, right? 216-474-0092. I want to hear from Browns fans today. Day one of camp. The Denzel Ward news is in. Zach Jackson says same old Browns. Without a doubt, they do need some veterans, right? So that can be worth paying for. This talk about durability, I don't know. He's only missed how many games the last 3 years? He's actually
not many.
Yeah,
and I think he's played in at least 12 since every year that he's been with the Browns. So he misses a few every year.
Yes, and as the schedule continues to get elongated, and we're going to be playing 18 games before you know it. I think most guys are going to just start missing a couple of games a year. The NFL's version of load management, I guess you would say. And I think you've seen that. I mean, how many quarterbacks do we see every year in the league? 64 starting quarterbacks. So I actually think, relatively speaking, he has been more durable. Yeah, I was worried about the concussions a few years ago. I was wondering, how much that was going to shorten his career. And yet he's gotten 2 really good seasons. I know Jonathan Peterlin had the numbers yesterday that the passer rating on balls targeting Denzel Ward last year was actually really high for the league, which to me, that just seems like a noisy stat because we all have eyes. I thought Denzel Ward was really good last year. And obviously they're paying him like he's the best. Well, It's his turn to come up, I guess, in the contract situation. It did surprise me. Again, like I said, I thought they were going to see if by the deadline there could be a desperate team and they could get a first-round pick. In this case, seems like they're prioritizing having some bit of culture. You can't just build culture from rookies and second-year players who are all trying to compete for a career.
And I don't think anybody was coming with the first-round pick.
Well, this was different from Miles.
Right.
We knew they had a standing offer whenever they wanted to move Miles.
Right.
That they were going to get, we thought at the time, 3 first-round picks. Well, Jared Verse, I think, substituted
two
him.
first-round picks,
Yeah.
and then you get 3 draft picks 3 years into the future for Miles. I think it's completely different with Denzel Ward, where maybe you find a desperate team at the deadline that's willing to give you a second, and that's the desperate offer. At some point, you got to say, we got enough second-round picks. We need somebody that could break up passes from Burrow to Chase. We need somebody that could stop Lamar and Zay Flowers. You know what I mean?
All right, 216-474-0092. Big show today. We've got that opportunity at 8 o'clock to win Lake Erie Crushers tickets on 92.3 The Fan Night. You're going to want to be there with us. Might see an errant actual first pitch. I think that's what everybody's hoping for, right? We still don't know who's going to be throwing out that first pitch, but stay tuned at 8 o'clock. 8:20, Zach Jackson. Chris Fedor at 9 o'clock. I've been talking to him over the last few days. He has the absolute latest on what is going on with the Cavs. Could there be a move going into the weekend for the Cavs that make people feel a little better about them? I will tell you, there was some news when it came to Draymond Green yesterday that sheds a whole bunch of light on what everybody didn't know when it came to LeBron James not becoming a Cleveland Cavalier. That when we come back, apparently Nick Padone heard something I said about booing LeBron that he just has to get off his chest. It's 216-474-0092. It's Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Field Park Racino Minute. Hello.
LeBron when he
What?
makes his return. Why I will boo LeBron, someone who I cherish, and the memories and all that stuff. It's simple. This is a game at some point. There are winners and losers. And one of the things that does not go unnoticed and everybody should take inventory of is LeBron's trying to win a championship. He's trying to add to the trophy case. He's trying to win championship number 5.
And he'll try and do it at the expense of the Cavaliers now.
There. Bingo. Bingo. That was from Monday's show when we were reacting to the news that went down on Friday about LeBron James. Anthony Lima, Nick Padone is in for Ken Carman today. And I understand that upset some people because how could somebody like me, who has cherished the LeBron experience since his freshman year at St. V's when I saw him play for the very first time, I've gotten emotional about LeBron. I said I probably mentioned his name more in my lifetime than anybody. Certainly my wife, who I just met. She's a Johnny-come-lately compared to LeBron. My kids, I don't even mention their name. And LeBron, still to this day, every day I mention LeBron James's name. And people started talking to me about how ungrateful I was about the championship when, just a week ago I was talking about not 1, not 2, but 3 statues. 1 for his first go-around, 2 for the championship 4-year era, and then number 3 for his return and the storybook ending. Nick, as you know, we are not getting a storybook ending for LeBron. At least I don't think, until maybe next year. We're not getting that storybook ending. You heard that, and what was your reaction?
I didn't like it. I heard it, and I didn't like it. I felt like the people in the 92.3 The Fan X comments on social media, presented by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. Our social media reactions always brought to you by Scheiben Jewelers. I felt like those commenters. I felt like you were being ungrateful to the one individual that brought this sports town a championship. But then I really thought about the entire point that you made. And that this time around, even though it is different than 2010, it's different than 2018. The Cavs are not left for dead. The Cavs are still going to be a contender in this Eastern Conference, even though LeBron didn't pick them. You also made a point that it felt like this time LeBron kind of let us on. And that there were a lot of people in LeBron's camp that were talking to other people in Cleveland in the know.
Oh, I know that for a fact.
Potentially including the Cavs, Lima, and they believed LeBron was coming back. Everybody kind of believed that LeBron was coming back to Cleveland. And then on Friday, the Shams Charania tweet hits. It's Philly. And we're all kind of left wondering, what happened? Where did we go wrong? You see some of the reports. Maybe you wanted Anthony Davis. Maybe you wanted Kyrie. Maybe Donovan Mitchell, James Harden. Maybe none of it's good enough for LeBron. And I got thinking more and more about your take and about booing and what the reaction is going to be like when LeBron and the Sixers come to Rocket Arena. I initially had my hands up like this, wanted to debate your take and rip it apart and tear it down. This time around, even though I'm a huge LeBron fan.
As am I.
I'm 27 years old. I've been watching this guy since I was 3.
Oh, jeez.
When he left for the Heat, Lima, I was 10. I wore a Heat 6 jersey. I went out to the store and I bought it. And my dad and my uncle...
You bought it with what money?
I from the little money that I had from taking the trash. And my dad and my uncle almost came to blows. My uncle was like, how could you let this kid put on a Miami Heat jersey? He was. My dad's like, there's worse people that he could look up to. I couldn't fathom as a kid why my dad wouldn't bring me to the Cavs game when LeBron came back with the Heat, with and that horrible reaction that he got. There were boos every time that he touched the ball. I couldn't comprehend as a kid why my dad wouldn't bring me to that game. I wanted to go cheer for LeBron.
Yeah, young Nick Padone was going to run out on the floor and hug him.
But now, kind of get it. I personally won't be in there booing, But for the people that feel that way...
Well, you won't be able to afford the tickets, let's be honest.
People that feel that way, and the people that buy those tickets, you bought the ticket, you have the right to do whatever you want.
Okay,
because this time it genuinely does feel different because it feels like we got let on.
Well, why doesn't it... Well, we did get let on, and there was news yesterday. Draymond Green came to terms on a one-year, $27.7 million deal. Why is that important? Because who was hanging out with LeBron in the lead-up to this decision? It was Draymond Green. He was with him. They didn't sign Draymond Green similarly to how we didn't sign James Harden, or at least make it official. The reason being is because I think he was leading Draymond on. I think he was leading the Warriors on. I think it was nothing personal to any of these teams, except LeBron was certainly, people in his camp were having fun at the expense of these teams. I have that firsthand a couple of times over, that people in his orbit were doing everything they could to have some fun, leaking stuff out, and people were running with it, and they had good sources. These people were not making stuff up. Right. They had really good sources. They were people directly embedded in LeBron's camp. And I think the issue here, and call it gamesmanship, I think that's exactly what I would say, is this was LeBron quite literally looking for championship number 5. And it doesn't do him any good if he's not going to be on the Cavs to do the Cavs a solid. It doesn't matter that the Cavs have this great history with him. That's different. That was a different coach. That was a different GM. Yes, the same owner, of which I think it's pretty clear all these years later that while Dan Gilbert and LeBron were able to mend fences enough to pave the way for his return, not mend the fences enough for them to have this buddy-buddy relationship during the end of his career or post-retirement. Now, we'll see what happens afterwards. But, I don't know, when's the last time Dan Gilbert has mentioned his fondness for LeBron James? He's had some opportunities to talk. We went over that with Jason Lloyd yesterday. It's not as if he has talked openly about looking fondly back of the LeBron James. No, the championship, yes. But it even seemed, when they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, how he made sure to talk about how big of a deal this was for the organization. We had been to 4 Eastern Conference Finals when we had LeBron.
And that's the elephant in the room. That's why LeBron's not in Cleveland. Philly got hyper-aggressive, and we didn't. That's really what this boils down to. There's video of David Blitzer at some kind of party where LeBron's representation was also at, putting the blitz on. Recruiting. Joel Embiid. That was LeBron's one reported apprehension about Philly, was Joel Embiid and his health. He picked up the phone. He called the king. He kissed the ring. He said, LeBron, I'm healthy. Come join us. Bob Myers was the only executive that went on Rich Paul's Mind the Game podcast during this whole escapade.
Well, Ken and I got into it because I say, Ken, if he,
I remember this.
He's got, look how desperate they are.
That's fine. Like, get aggressive. I wanted to see the Cavs get that aggressive, but they never did.
Turns out Ken was right.
They never did. I wanted to see them get really aggressive. This is the greatest basketball player of all time. This is a little bit different. You could swing and miss, but at least you swung really hard. It felt like the Cavs kind of just tried to bunt and hoped LeBron would come home based on story, based on nostalgia. As it turns out, LeBron wants to win. That's what's going to make him happiest. He feels like Philly is a better spot than that in Cleveland. And that hurts me, dude. That hurts me deep because I, like you, was getting some things that led me to believe that another homecoming was kind of imminent. And I felt like on Friday when that news dropped that I got duped. I really did. And that's a crappy feeling. I feel like a lot of Cavs fans probably feel that way.
And that's why I think, look, the minute his career's over, we're going to be planning all the returns. We're going to be talking about that. I mean, there are people that think that LeBron, now it's not going to be the Vegas team. Maybe down the road it could be the Cavs, that he could own the Cavs. Who knows? Who knows what is in store for the end of his career? I will be able to accurately reflect on all of it in such a positive way.
Yeah.
Because he's been in the public's eye since he was basically 15 years old. And he's, 41 now? So over a quarter of a century, he has been here with very few scandals. And his scandals are so tepid compared to so many of the athlete and superstar scandals that we have today. I thought he more than made up for the decision the first time by coming back to win the championship. I will be able to accurately reflect on all of that. The reality is right now it's a cutthroat world, and people think Philly could be ahead of the Cavs right now. I do have some over-under win totals we can go over later in the show. Not everybody is in on Philly. Not everybody thinks this is going to go in such a terrific manner that they're going to be competing for a championship. But as it stands now, like, yeah, let's beat their ass. Like, let's win. They're going to be here. The Cup, the Emirates Cup, the fabled, the storied in-season tournament cup, the group of all-time death, and they could be coming to Cleveland early in the season. Nick Padone, it's the Cup.
Yeah, it's what them. Miami's in that too.
The Knicks,
the world champs,
Pacers,
the Pacers, who did what they did to you in the postseason a couple of years ago. It's a very improved Eastern Conference. Lima, I know you're still high on the Cavs. They've got a great team. They need to find some wings. If that Mario Hezonja guy wants to put his name on that veteran minimum contract at some point,
we'll
that'd
have
be
to
good.
get to that a little bit later on. We have another investigation that we have opened here
but
at 92.3 The Fan.
Yeah, like I can't fully embrace LeBron. He's in the same East that I want the Cavs to go win this East. I want the Cavs to compete for a championship. It was easier to pull for LeBron and appreciate his greatness when he was out west with the Lakers, especially those early years.
I was in bed by the time he was.
They were not a title threat. They had Lonzo Ball and Kyle Kuzma that first year. They were kind of screwing around. It was what it was. But this year, it feels a little bit more personal that he's scoring us.
All right, 216-474-0092. Where are you on this? We'll get to your phone calls. Plus, camp is opening up. Unbridled enthusiasm all the way around. Couldn't believe what I was hearing on the afternoon show yesterday. And anybody but Shedeur? Really? We're going to do this with Baker Mayfield? There's some drama going on in Tampa Bay, and there are some Clevelanders saying, let's welcome him home if we can't get LeBron James. That's all straight ahead on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
When your roof
It is early, but so far so good as you make your way towards downtown Cleveland on this Wednesday morning. Jeff Thomas, Odyssey Cleveland traffic.
Deshaun Watson, Shador Sanders. The Browns QB battle is back. We're your home for training camp and preseason coverage. The radio home of the Cleveland Browns. 92.3 The Fan.
We're getting a little bit of LeBron reaction here, and then we will get to the Browns because I love optimism. I love excitement. And what I heard on the afternoon show yesterday was exactly that. Which is nice to hear. A fresh breath of air in Cleveland radio. It's about time. I mean, they were rolling through the roster, and I was like, yeah, okay, that guy's good, that guy's good, that guy's good, that guy's good. What is our win total again? We'll get to that in a little bit. 216-474-0092. We've got Padone in for Carman today. He was tweeting last night. He was reacting.
Nick was or Carman was?
Carman. There was some Baker talk that we'll get to that was happening right here on our station because it's got to be anybody but Shador. You guys keep moving the goalposts. So one day it's Anthony Richardson. Then the next day it's Malik Willis.
Who's the you guys?
Yeah, everybody doing radio.
The you guys named Anthony Lima?
I'm ready for a quarterback competition.
Maurice, set him straight.
We've got our quarterbacks that are right here, ready to roll. And then I got to hear about Brendan Sorsby every day. And now apparently Baker Mayfield. We'll get to that in a sec. Rick in Menor. Go ahead, Rick.
Good morning, fellas.
How you
I'm a
doing?
longtime listener. I just got an email this morning where I'm a VIP, 92.3 The Fan supporter. Appreciate that. My comment this morning, though, is
on all your success.
23, 24 years ago, we get this lottery, right? And there's this conception behind the lottery that there was a frozen ping pong ball, and Cleveland chooses the ball, and we get LeBron James. My thought, and I've been a sports fan for 63 years in Cleveland, is are we even talking about him looking at Cleveland back towards after leaving? I mean, even if he wasn't drafted here, would he even consider Cleveland? I mean, he goes to L.A., he goes to Miami, he goes to Philly. These are all high-profile teams. Without that draft, without him originally coming here, there is him no leaving. There's no I'm taking my talent. So my thought is, you know, Cleveland, we have to become more passionate about just winning and not passionate about the good feel and the family coming home. I mean, I just feel like he wouldn't even look at Cleveland if we hadn't drafted. So I'm going to hang up.
Boy, it's a question. Thank you, Ray. It's a question that I've thought a lot about. By the way, you couldn't just freeze one ball. Like, this isn't the Patrick Ewing thing. There's like 1,000 balls. And I know they've tinkered with it again.
Combos, yeah, you got to get the combos.
Yeah, that's a lot of freezing balls.
You know what you can freeze? Surfside Hard Iced Tea. It sponsors all our Cavs talk.
I mean, can you imagine? Okay, we have 34 balls. No, we need another 965.
Get them out of the freezer.
Keep going. My hands are freezing now. I have frostbite.
I think a lot of us, like a lot of it was we were pulling for the story, but a big piece of this too, and I get LeBron's 41. He averaged 27-6 last year.
Yeah,
like,
and then won a playoff series on his own.
A really great basketball player that we could have put on a Cavs team desperate for a wing, and it would have elevated everything about how we discuss the Cavs. So, like, I do think, yeah, sure, we wanted to put the bow on LeBron's entire story and career and have that be in Cleveland. That's all fine and great and good. But LeBron, the basketball player, is still really good, and I think we really wanted him because we understand LeBron impacts winning still, even at age 41.
And obviously for what we do, there's storylines. You would have had, if this is his last season, people flying in from all over the world. We would have been talking every night. Is he playing? Is he not playing? Like, are you bringing your grandchildren? Is this going to be the last chance you get to see him? And then obviously the storylines once the playoffs start. I have wondered what the caller had asked. Like, if LeBron James, if we don't get him way back when, would he have had any reason to come play here to pursue a championship?
Or would it have been like a Steph Curry? Like, that guy's from Akron.
The whole career. Oh, yeah.
It's just a fun fact.
Same hospital. Dan in Cleveland, welcome to the show. You're next on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. What's up, Dan?
Yeah. Hey, Anthony. What's up, guys?
Hey.
Yeah, well, first of all, LeBron's character is irrefutable.
The guy, especially for a high-profile athlete, the way he handled himself since he came into the league at such a young age. And whether he would have come to the Cavs or not, he was born in Akron. He played, for his hometown team. That's just a special story in itself. I really thought, I always envisioned LeBron having a piece of the Cavs ownership when he did retire. I mean, he was a phenom. No matter what team he went to, instantly that team was a championship contender. Back in his prime, no matter where he went, instantly that team was a championship contender. So, but as far as him, kind of like, I felt like this in Cleveland in the end. I agree with you, like booing him when he comes. I mean, except for when they have like a celebration to celebrate his career here. Yeah, I'll cheer then. But other than that,
that's not this year. Yeah.
I hope he never. Well, yeah, no, it's not.
And there's going to be Philly fans. Philly fans could be invading your arena.
Oh yeah, they're going to. That's how it always goes.
I'm sure they will. And I hope he never wins another championship if it's not in Cleveland. I mean, that's just the way I feel right now. And like I said, the guy, I thought he's irrefutable. You've heard athletes always, that kind of spotlight.
Hey, stayed out of trouble. Yeah, didn't do silly. Thank you, Dan. Didn't do silly things with his money. He's not a cautionary tale. He's not a what could have been. And then I've often said, like, yeah, the documentary is going to be made. There's also a documentary about him, Rich Paul, Maverick Carter, like three behemoths in the business world now. I think that goes. I know that. There's some weird corners of the internet that just want to attack on that stuff. And I think that people should be so proud of all three of those dudes and what they've been able to accomplish. Speaking of what they've been able to accomplish, who knew? When I talk about optimism for the Cleveland Browns, optimism over so many a player that I hadn't even thought of. And this was yesterday on the afternoon show as they were just going through player after player on Nick Wilson likes this guy. Nick Wilson likes this guy. John was able to dig this up. Who else does Nick Wilson like for the Browns as we get ready to kick off camp?
I really like Rocket Sanders. I think he gave you some really nice touches last year.
I hadn't even thought of Rocket Sanders. It's been months since I even thought about him.
I've thought about him nonstop.
Are you just dreaming?
Mostly late at night.
You dreaming about Raheem?
When I was waiting, laying in bed, waiting for my CPAP to take over.
Is that what that is?
And my mind would just drift to Rocket Sanders.
This is the first Rocket Sanders mention of 2026. I think out of the whole year, this might be the first time.
I would count my Sanders. Shador.
Yeah.
Rocket.
Yeah. Is it Barry would pop in somehow?
Barry.
Yeah.
Vanessa's like, he's probably thinking of Rocket Sanders. She just knows me so well.
It's always Rocket Sanders.
Rocket Sanders, I think, can be your Gus Edwards.
Okay. This was an amazing segment because there were the comparisons because Todd Monken came from Baltimore. And so I heard the term, well, the Browns are now going to run the ball with authority. And we're going to emulate the Baltimore Ravens attack. And just like that, magic wand, boom, Browns, one of the best rushing attacks in all of football. Now, part of that rushing attack, a guy named Derrick Henry.
Lamar Jackson contributes a little bit with his legs, too.
The best running quarterback in the history of the game. That helps. I don't think we have that. I do like Quinshon Judkins, but he's coming off a devastating injury. I don't know what the guy's going to look like when he returns. And then apparently we have Rocket Sanders, and this was in the midst of basically Nick liking every single player on the Cleveland Browns. Wait till maybe later in the show we'll talk about the defense. Apparently we have the best guys at every position on defense too. Is it just that time of the year where hope springs eternal and Browns fans get right back to, well, we fixed everything in the offseason? Because Vegas thinks you're going to be one of the worst teams in football.
Even Daryl, though, Sunday. Because I was talking a little bit about this. And just that I wasn't really too excited for this camp. Just because we kind of know what this year is going to be. You hope that a lot of the young talent comes along and gets developed. And you hope that you win a couple games along the way. But you don't have a quarterback. We're going to be talking about quarterbacks in April for the draft. But But even Daryl was spinning this, that there are so many fun storylines with this retooled offensive line. Who are the last two in the wide receiver room? You know, Daryl's talking about, can Jared Verse practice the same way that Myles Garrett used to? So even Daryl had a lot of optimism on the Sunday show. I do think that it is just this time of year. Now, I looked it up. Rocket Sanders had 27 carries last year.
Yeah. But he likes him. So if you like Rocket Sanders, but, I don't like James Harden, and Donovan Mitchell's not good enough, and, Evan Mobley's not good enough, and the Cavs stink, even though 26 other teams would have fallen in love with being the Cavs last year. But I like Rocket Sanders. I gotta love, if you're a Browns fan, the bar is so damn low that you get to like guys that I don't think we're going to hear about probably ever again. It is amazing how this works. In professional football in a town like Cleveland, when you're so bad every year that fans get to go to camp and like every single player on the team. All right, 216-474-0092. When we come back, there is a quarterback controversy right here in Cleveland. There's also a quarterback contract controversy in the state of Florida, in the city of Tampa Bay, that had people in Cleveland yearning for a big name from the past. Does this make sense, or is this just the next edition of Anybody But Shador? Stick ahead. We'll have that. Plus, we've got a chance to win Lake Erie Crushers tickets at 8 o'clock, 8:20 Zach Jackson. 9 o'clock hour, we'll get back to the Cavs. Chris Fedor will join us as well on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
This is
Angeles and 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline Sports News every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Get to the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel to see daily Browns training camp breakdowns with Darryl Ryder and Coach Lance Reisland.
Hour number 2, and exciting times ahead for the Cleveland Browns, as today we will actually get to start charting some throws. Nick Padone is in for Ken Carman. You're going to be out there this week. What is going to be your plan of attack? How are you going to be handling the quarterback situation?
Oh, every throw. You already know that live. Every single throw. We write down the hits. We write down the misses, the touchdowns to Boston, the worm burners to the grass.
There were a lot of worm burners.
So we're getting a chart from you.
No. Do not be on the lookout.
Well, we need a chart from someone.
Well, somebody's got to do it.
Everybody that's been on the show so far says they're not charting it. Somebody's going to chart it.
And yet, that'll be the signature takeaway. I saw this is what was happening in minicamp. I mean, in minicamp where I couldn't even tell where the end zone was based on where they were on the field.
Some of those fields were painted for soccer.
Yeah,
because they had Egypt here for like the World Cup qualifying. They were playing on soccer pitches at some point.
Yeah, so it was funny. There was a throw from Deshaun Watson that made the rounds, and a bunch of the Shador fans got all over it and said, "Oh, that was underthrown. Holy cow, that's not starting quarterback material." And people had to let them know that the back of the end zone was right there. If you threw it any further, it's actually out of bounds. So it was actually a perfect throw. So there's a lot of that's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of correcting, and hey, for the crowds that like to talk about this stuff and make sure to use the term context. There needs to be context. This is where we had Coach Riz on yesterday and said, well, so much of the knee-jerk analysis to this stuff is going to lack any real context because you don't know what the coaching is. Like, you can only hear Monken, if you're in certain parts, it gets loud. You've got trains rolling through. You've got the flatbeds in reverse.
Well, of course, they've got to back up the trucks.
You've always. They backed up the truck for Denzel Ward yesterday.
There should be a mower running at all times.
There's construction going on, like right on the other side of that
Gotta
fence.
have sprinklers.
Because they're finishing like the hospital that's going in over there. There will be noise.
There's a whole transformation that is going on, and we're hoping that there's a transformation of that quarterback room so we can have a palatable football team this year. Now, Joel Bitonio, who has played his last game for the Cleveland Browns, he was on the afternoon show yesterday. And, of course, he was asked, as that's what we have to do with everybody surrounding the Browns, who's going to start, who's going to win this quarterback competition. Here's Joel Bitonio.
I don't know who's going to come out on top. I don't know what the coaching staff is thinking or what AB and his team is thinking. Like, it seems like Deshaun might get the start of the year, which from your perspective is like, you see what he can do. Is he healthy? Is he confident again? Like, you've invested a lot of money in this guy and go out there and let him play. If it goes well, you win some games. And if it doesn't, then you have Shador, and maybe there's less pressure on Shador when he's coming in, not having to start the season, not winning a competition. That's kind of my perspective from the outside, but you never know. Shador could dominate in the preseason and be like, hey, we got to roll with this young guy, and it's the future, and the time is now.
I have said best case scenario, and I think most would agree, although we've gotten a little bit of pushback anytime we try to speak for everybody in this fan base, that the best case scenario is Shador Sanders, after the 7 games last year, has that offseason. He's working out 4 times a day. It's a lot of times, but he's putting in that work. We've seen almost all that work because they've produced it on video. And he's been, wherever he's been throwing the football around, that he gets better, that he continues to get better, that he ascends so much so that he wins this quarterback competition. And it is the Shador Sanders era of football, at least for this year, and that he just absolutely balls out. That is the best case scenario.
It is the best case. Like, and I know you're not a huge Shador fan, but you just confessed that, like, if he plays well, you effectively found Brock Purdy. You could take all the extra draft picks from trading Myles Garrett, all the extra draft picks from trading back in back-to-back first rounds, and you could boost the rest of this roster. How'd Jeremiah Smith look in this receiving room? How'd the Notre Dame corner look next to Denzel Ward on this new high-price contract that he just signed last night? Like, if Shedeur Sanders looks good and can stop the Browns from drafting a quarterback, great. We're off to the races. But if Deshaun wins this thing out of camp, it's going to be very hard for Shedeur, as we saw last year, to do enough in whatever sample size of games he gets. If he does get any this year, if Deshaun gets injured, or if he just plays bad, where Shedeur could stop the Browns from what I kind of feel like is probably the inevitable, and that's that they go into Indianapolis next year looking for a quarterback at the Combine. And in April, when we're sitting down for the NFL draft in Washington, D.C., we're probably going to be debating what quarterback are the Cleveland Browns going to be after. If Shedeur doesn't beat Deshaun out of camp, it's going to be really hard for him to stop them from that planning that I think has probably already gone on.
We've seen a lot of in recent years with the Browns and on just bad football teams that are kind of, wandering around looking for quarterbacks, like the fragmented season. And that's exactly what last year ended up being for Shedeur. They did not prepare him to play football. So he comes in, fourth in the depth chart, and next thing you know, now he's starting games. He got thrown into the Baltimore game. That was ridiculous. I don't even use that game as any kind of an evaluation for him. And then, it was fun to see, how he would, improve his play over time. Had good moments, like most quarterbacks have good moments.
Yeah.
It's like, Johnny Manziel had good moments. So I thought it was impossible to come away with anything last year, unless you were just a diehard Shedeur fan. I think it was hard to walk away from last season and think real optimistically about the future of him as the quarterback. That's where this year comes in. That's where an honest quarterback competition comes in, where he's going to get his opportunity. He has a new coach with no previous bias other than he's been on the sidelines coaching against these guys, but, as an OC. So it's not like he was really analyzing it in that way that like a defensive coordinator would be doing it. And so I think that's the exciting. If you were to ask me, like, what is going to be fun about camp? Yeah, Jared Verse, I'm excited to see him. But really, that's what is exciting about this, is to get a chance to see if Shedeur could take that next step. It's not as exciting to me to see if Deshaun Watson can regain the glory.
No.
Because then you got, all right, if he regains any kind of glory whatsoever, then what? You're signing him to another, you're linking back up with what has been the worst representation of what could be the worst trade in NFL history.
And they're not going to do that. I know Andrew Berry has said, that you can't rule it out, never say never. They're not going to do that. What did they do? We were getting ready to talk about Baker with Baker. When they were talking about, the potential of extending him, Andrew Berry would repeatedly state, you got to factor in the whole body of work. Well, the whole body of work since 2022, when Deshaun Watson arrived, shows that he's not an available quarterback. So even if he's somehow able to reclaim some of that glory from Houston, his whole full body of work shows not worthy of a contract extension here.
Not only that, his full body has been so surgically repaired.
And he admitted that. He admitted that at minicamp. He said something, I'm paraphrasing here, when he was asked about, just his mindset, trying to reclaim some of that glory. He was like, I'm not trying to be the quarterback I was in Houston. I'm just hoping to get through a full 17-plus game schedule. So it's like, okay, right there, you almost have a confession from the guy that physically he might just not have it anymore.
And that is the one thing about all the workout videos you might see. There was a montage video, carefully edited, put together with Watson that came out yesterday. We played some of the audio, and he's like, I think it's all coming together this year. It was optimism. Much in the same vein, Nick Wilson was optimistic about Rocket Sanders. That was the type of optimism you heard from Deshaun. And look, there's no doubt, he was a shell of himself in terms of confidence.
Yeah.
The moment he walked through the doors here in Cleveland, it was clear, I could tell pretty early on that I'm like, oh no, that's not the guy that I've been salivating and yearning for years. That's not the guy that I saw take the league by storm his rookie year.
And I tried to sell it to myself. I was like, maybe he's just trying to stay quiet. He knows the suspension's coming. He knows another shoe's going to drop. But then even when the suspension came and it passed and we got him on the field for Jacoby, there was that big discussion of like, how long is it going to take for him to knock off the rust? And 3 games, 4 games, turned into 6 games.
Do you remember how bad that Houston game was?
Yeah.
Like watching those balls that were getting thrown quite literally at guys' feet and into the dirt. And it's like, all right, that's one game. It's a little bit of rust. I don't know, 5 years later, isn't that kind of what we saw the entire time out of Watson's save for that second half against the Baltimore Ravens?
Pretty much. And that's kind of what it looked like in spring practice, too. You know, there were moments where dazzling touchdowns to Denzel Boston. Casey Concepcion had a couple really nice catches. But then in between all of those highlights that you see posted so carefully edited on his social media channels are the balls that just go 10 feet above Isaiah Bond's head, where he wouldn't have even been able to catch it if he was Yao Ming's height. The passes that are still at receivers' feet for whatever reason. The ball just not coming out of his hand consistently each and every throw. It does, like, as we start to talk about that layer of this thing, and then we hear from Joel Bitonio, who was in the locker room with these guys literally a couple of months ago, say that he still thinks that from the outside it looks like Deshaun's in the lead. Like, maybe some of that optimism starts to get knocked down a couple pegs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and, you know, this is the last part of this, is the fact that he was a pariah. It's been enough years where, yeah, it's not like they're talking glowingly about him. It's not like they're going to put him on the front of the program or put his signage back up. But it does kind of feel like enough years have passed where he doesn't seem like the pariah, mostly because I think most Browns fans have just stopped thinking about him.
Right.
Does that come back if he wins the job? Are we going to get any national media back in town to talk? Or is he just so yesterday's news, old news, that we're not even going to be talking about that stuff? I don't know.
Because I think if he's named the starting cornerback of this thing, you're going to have the national people looking at this through the Shador lens. You know, and they're going to be getting the Shador base even more riled than they're going to be on their own, saying, well, wait a minute, you traded Myles Garrett because he didn't fit the timeline of this roster. You have a 24-year-old quarterback that could be your lottery ticket out of this QB search that's been going on since 1999. You're going to go to Deshaun. I definitely think that the national media will be back, and some of the vitriol towards Deshaun could potentially come back if he's QB1.
All right, we'll get your thoughts on that. 216-474-0092. And when we come back, starting to look around the NFL landscape, there is a familiar name, a familiar quarterback who, once again, doesn't seem to be absolutely thrilled with his contract situation. We've seen it all before. Could it be a problem that we should be paying even closer attention to? That's up next here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. We certainly should be paying attention to the top real estate team in Northeast Ohio.
or no walks. Can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Minutes about last night. It was kind of a rough split last night for the Guardians, wasting another great pitching performance. A lot of warning track power in that second game and shut out like 3 of their last 4 games. But then did have a nice win early on, a come-from-behind win. So we'll get to that in about last night. 216-474-0092. Nick Padone is in for Ken Carman. I'm Anthony Lima, and with a lot to be said about the stuff that comes out of camp, especially today when our quarterbacks really get to put their best foot forward when it comes to the quarterback competition. Gets really interesting with some of the storylines there, but it couldn't go unnoticed yesterday that an old name resurfaced on the afternoon show yesterday when it came to Baker Mayfield. And there was a whole thing about the disrespect that Baker could be feeling right now. We know he had dealt with that in Cleveland in the past. And in what universe does Baker Mayfield return to the Cleveland Browns? Nick Wilson certainly had a thought.
If I'm right about the Browns, and I think the Browns' probably sweet spot is in that 7 range, but if they hit that sweet spot of 7, you're not getting one of the 5 best quarterbacks in next year's draft. If you end up being a 7-win team, and the only thing holding you back is the quarterback position, and a year from now, Baker Mayfield is a free agent, all I've heard is Browns fans who were sick of Baker 5 years ago say, the Browns will never do it. It was a bad relationship. $60 million settles a lot of previous grievances.
I don't think Andrew Berry would ever go down that road.
I think Todd Monken's a real key difference this time, because I think Todd Monken and Baker Mayfield would be best buddies.
So it certainly seems like Nick, who has been very, very high on Baker, much higher than I've ever been on Baker Mayfield. And I've said it before, the beauty of Baker Mayfield is everybody who's ever had an opinion on Baker has gotten to be right and has gotten to tell everybody how right they were at some point. And then he keeps playing football. And then you're wrong. And then you get to be right again. And then you get to be wrong again. Because that has been the career of Baker Mayfield. Nick Padone, do you have any interest, and say this as respectfully as you can, considering there's a quarterback competition, and maybe our future quarterback is competing right now between Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson, but do you have any thought on reuniting with Baker Mayfield?
A little. Because I'm like you. I'm team anybody until we figure this thing out. I'm not anybody but Shedeur. I'm not anybody but Deshaun. I just want to get off this ride. I do feel like going back to Baker, though, is one thing where it'd be like, because didn't this general manager and this ownership group tell you just a couple of short years ago in 2022 exactly how they felt about Baker Mayfield? They thought he wasn't good enough to win a Super Bowl championship. And they got rid of him for Deshaun Watson, a guy that they thought could lead them to a Super Bowl championship. And obviously, Baker had to hit rock bottom during his time with the Panthers and found a little career surgence with the Rams and then found what he thought was going to be a forever home in Tampa. So he did a lot of growing up in that time frame. And maybe for that growing up and maturity, we should welcome back Baker with the new lens. I'm very pro keeping all of my options open. There was a time this offseason I was open to the prospect of Ty Simpson in round 1. So I can't turn my nose up at Baker Mayfield, who's at least been a competent quarterback in this league. I just don't know that that's the guy that gets you off this ride. I don't know that going back to him is the thing that finally stops all of this quarterback mayhem. I don't think that it is.
So I try to take a big picture look at this stuff, and always, I try to remind myself, got to be more open-minded. Like in the NBA, we just say teams every year can't win the championship, and now we've had 8 teams in 8 years win the championship. At some point, I've got to stop saying, hey, no, you can't win a championship. In the NFL, we just had Sam Darnold win the Super Bowl. And Sam Darnold, his record over the last 2 years, what does he have, like 6 losses? over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
He had a bad playoff flame out the year before, and everyone's like, oh, okay, Sam Darnold again. And then this year he wins the Super Bowl. And he didn't even play that great in the Super Bowl.
And isn't there still a piece of you in your brain somewhere when you just think about Sam Darnold, the quarterback, there still is a good chance that at some point he turns back into being not all that great.
Could be this year.
Could be this year. It could be the fact that they had an elite offensive line. Could be the fact that Jackson Smith and Jigba was really good. I think all of those elements went into Darnold winning a Super Bowl, and then you kind of got to look at Baker through that same lens. Well, with this retooled offensive line, with Concepcion in Boston, you've got these 2 first-round picks next year. If they win 7 or 8 games, to Nick Wilson's point, they're not in the position for Arch Manning or Dante Moore. It probably does become a lot more realistic. I just think you got to see how this all plays out. Like, what if Baker's awful this year? What if Tampa wouldn't even entertain franchise tagging him? At the same time, what if Baker lights the world on fire and he could be potentially making $60 million annually? Well, then they are going to franchise tag him because that would only cost him about $55 million.
Yeah, that's the thing I think people are missing in all this. If he plays really well, you just simply can't get him. So the only way you'd have a chance to get him is if he played poorly. And then what? You're thinking, like Nick's just saying, Todd Monken. I know Todd Monken, apparently in Nick's mind, you just wave a magic wand. Running game, Todd Monken. Boom, Derrick Henry.
Baker Mayfield waved that same
Todd
wand.
Monken. Put it on there. Boom.
They were together in 2019.
That's a good point. How did that season go?
Not that great.
I know
Todd wasn't the head coach.
Put the batteries back. I have to do this with my kids all the time. They come to me and they go, not working. Charge it, charge it, charge it. Everything's a charge. I'm like, no, this is batteries.
Oh, I think it's
was
29.
Todd Monken, was his wand, what, did it not have the batteries or did it have a USB charger?
Freddie Kitchens forgot to plug it in.
Come on, it's that easy. I do think we're getting a little carried away with just saying Todd Monken, and that means everything's fixed when he's never been a head coach in the NFL before.
And I want to keep all of these quarterback options open. I do. And I know it feels like right now, like, is Cleveland desperate for a reunion maybe because the LeBron one didn't work out? That, like, we've also talked about Francisco Lindor. Now we're looking at Baker Mayfield for a potential reunion. Like, we're really trying to bring back, like, the 20 teens in Cleveland right now. I like Baker. I do. Like, I was a Baker fan when he was here. He was a polarizing character. He threw a lot of touchdown passes. We had a lot of fun moments going into Pittsburgh and beating Pittsburgh in the playoffs. It was a fun moment. It was
awesome.
It was great. Baker was the king of the city for a little bit there. It was a great time. I just don't know that he is the guy to get this thing course corrected right now.
I know we're all in different levels of desperation. 216-474-0092. When you hear the name Baker Mayfield, are you thinking, hey, I'd like to reunite with that guy? Even if you liked him before, do you think at this point, what is he, 31 years old already, just like that? Like this thing, and you know, as a quarterback, we see guys play later and later, depending. Matt Stafford, look at the type of career and third act he's having in his career. But I have to say, like, as much as I don't want to talk in definitives all the time, like, it's been my stance throughout his career that he's not good enough to win a Super Bowl. So why would I then in free agency, as opposed to drafting, whether it's Shedeur Sanders?
Right.
Well, you talked about best case scenario.
Right.
He's our Brock Purdy, fifth rounder.
And Anthony, wouldn't you think that, assuming he has other suitors besides the Browns,
that he would go with those suitors?
Well, or you're going to pay extra. You're going to pay that tax, that 2020 tax, or whatever the 2022 tax.
From what
happened with him and Deshaun and all of that.
And are you guessing his perspective is we put him through?
Oh, yeah.
Especially the banged up year.
Yeah.
He's probably going to somehow.
Carolina. I mean,
yeah,
all
guys,
of that.
guys, I think like for any of this to have any merit, the Browns probably have to have a new general manager next year to see if we seriously entertain Baker. Like, I don't know that it happens with Barry and Haslam. Just because of all that history, why would Baker ever sign up for that again?
Well, I don't really feel like relitigating that whole season again, in which you should have listened to me two times in recent Cleveland Browns history. As much as everybody thinks I'm toxic to the Browns discussion, Nick Chubb should have listened to me when I said he should have held out for a new contract when he was healthy, because I said it just takes one hit. And then that hit came, and that was it. And I thought the Browns were in a spot. They always pay their guys. They always come around. They always end up paying their guys. And that was it for Nick Chubb. And I think he lost a lot of money not listening to people like me. And then Baker Mayfield. I thought when he suffered that injury, I thought it was time to shut her down because you trying to play Baker Mayfield, he's not 6'4", he's not Josh Allen,
right.
He's not even Patrick Mahomes in terms of size. Like, guys like that really have trouble trying to gut it out through injuries.
Well, and he still plays that way. He still plays that way.
Plays
That's part of the reason.
that.
That's part of the reason why I think Tampa is in this situation with the contract negotiation. Like, of course they're still telling you, like, we want Baker, we love Baker,
Well, yeah,
he's our quarterback.
They have centered all of their, for the last 2 years at least, they've centered everything they do around Baker Mayfield.
And outwardly they're telling you how much they love him. Well, put pen to paper. And I think part of the reason why they're having a difficult time putting pen to paper is this is a guy that has been banged up over the course of his career, dating back to his time in Cleveland. He's had his nicks and bruises during his time with the Buccaneers just because he plays a little recklessly. He plays with a chip on his shoulder,
which
the passion.
is why people love him. They love watching him.
And I get that because we've
also
had a
why
lot
he
of
had a chip in his shoulder.
Quite literally.
We've had a lot of quarterbacks that have come through here that wouldn't have done what Baker did. They would have put their tail between their legs. They would have said, "Shut me down. I'm done," for a lot less injuries than what Baker went through. So from one lens, I could appreciate Baker trying to tough through it, but there came a time where it was costing the team games. And that was very evident. I just don't know that, like, Barry and Haslam and J.W. Johnson, the decision makers in Berea, want to rehash this history the way that we are and hope Baker would want to come back.
Now, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in a building that we only end up hearing first or second hand, and it's not stuff we can just say definitively on the radio because we don't know. We're not in there. We're just hearing about it. And then people that leak that stuff out, they have their motivations. With that said, there was a lot of noise all the way around the last 2 years of Baker in that building. Remember, you had the Myles Garrett. There was a lot of speculation on Myles Garrett, and there were times when it looked like Myles Garrett and Baker Mayfield.
Remember the video?
Didn't see eye to eye.
TMZ ran up on Myles Garrett at like a UFC fight, I think, and they were asking him about Baker and if he comes back, and Myles was like super non-committal, and everybody ran with that. Like, there was a real thought that if they would have brought back Baker in 2022, it could have cost you Myles Garrett. Now, obviously, as history plays out, the Deshaun Watson trade ends up costing you Myles Garrett anyways, but everybody was kind of out on Baker as an organization at the end. Like, I don't think that was a difficult decision that they had to make when they got Deshaun to trade Baker. I think if they missed out on Deshaun, if he would have held firm and kept the Browns, like, they probably would have had Jimmy G or
I think
Derek
they were
Carr.
moving on. Kirk Cousins.
Moving on, yeah.
I think they were absolutely moving on from him. I think there was a lot of revisionist history.
They probably would have drafted Kenny Pickett.
And when... Yes, we might have had Kenny Pickett here. Boy, you're just taking me down a lot of sliding door moments. I'll just tell you that the revisionist history, when I hear people, and some on this station, talk about Baker, they make it sound like the Browns made the playoffs. Baker was the hero, win in Pittsburgh, and then we said, get the hell out of here. There's a lot of stuff that happened in between there. Didn't exactly go like that. There was a reason that we were desperate and did everything we could to pursue somebody with the baggage of Deshaun Watson. And I think people forget about this time and time again. And so for me, I'll just say this. I'm out of the Baker business. I am out. And the only way that he could play me back into wanting to be with the Baker business would be a way that we can't get him, because then he would get tagged or sign a new contract with Tampa Bay. So all of that is to say, I don't think it's ever happening, and I don't even know if I'm comfortable with it happening from this point forward.
No, it's a great story. It's just that, like, when I look at a realistic path to get off this ride, there's just way too many hurdles that need to be cleared before I get back into the Baker business. Yet at the same time, like, I don't want to say that I'm completely out of the Baker business, because I want off this ride, Lime. Like, I want a quarterback that could get me back to relevant. And honestly, since Baker, Joe Flacco gave me, obviously, that stretch of games. We had the Jameis Winston snow game, memorable. DTR beat the Steelers in there. Shador at moments against the Raiders. I guess the throw to Isaiah Bond. Other than that, since Baker, there has not been much good quarterback play in this city. So I don't want to say I'm completely out of the Baker business.
All right, when we come back, it's about last night. Now we're trying something new where we have young John, who's getting closer and closer to passing the threshold of his probationary period. So I'm getting more comfortable with him. I said, write the teases for About Last Night. It's your segment. You get to write the teases. Are you ready? Coming up in About Last Night, an NFL head coach was severely injured in a car accident. We'll tell you who it was. Could it be Kevin Stefanski? Could it be Todd Monken? I don't know, but that's the tease. I hope not, because today practice starts. So pins and needles, we're all on. And if you thought missing out on LeBron James was bad, things have only gotten worse for the Cavs this offseason. I didn't know that was possible, but apparently it got worse. About Last Night with young John, next on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. XTENDAV.com, Extend Technologies, where I am.
Browns training camp is here.
Come on, man, wake up!
And so is your daily coverage from Berea, the radio home of the Cleveland Browns. 92.3 The Fan.
So much can happen around the globe that we never hear of.
I really don't give a shit. I mean, it had nothing to do with me. I mean, they moved the meeting. I didn't miss it. I was just trying to get a sweet haircut.
How it is when you win in Cleveland, man. They love you. When you lose, whew, it's the way it should be.
He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
I got rumors about him. How he couldn't please his wife, and so now he's divorced.
That sounds really good, but I'm not 6'5", and I don't have the athletic ability to play in the NBA.
Now, the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima give their thoughts on what you might have missed about last night.
And a reminder that Zach Jackson will be appearing on the show 14 minutes from now. We played the audio earlier that he said, same old Browns on the Denzel Ward signing. Go ahead, John.
The Cleveland Guardians split a day-night doubleheader against the Cincinnati Reds in the Ohio Cup, and they basically got lucky the first game. Kyle Manzardo claimed he was hit by a pitch. With the bases loaded, replay review said it didn't. He actually still maintained that it did hit him, but doesn't matter. He hit a grand slam, put the Guardians up 4-0. Now, the Reds actually took the lead, and the Guardians tied it later on in the game. But a safety squeeze by Ryan Rocchio gave the Guardians a 6-5 lead in the 8th. There you go. There is the Guards
What happened
ball.
to the never bunting?
Works sometimes for Stephen Vogt, apparently, but it didn't matter. They split the nightcap. They got 3 hit, and they wasted an elite outing from Gavin Williams, who has been absolutely elite over his last 4 starts. Is there anything that can give you faith in the Guardians going into the playoffs?
Now, hold on. You said didn't matter, but that saved them from being swept. I'd say that mattered, and the White Sox end up losing yesterday.
You don't gain any ground, though. That's the thing.
But you didn't lose any ground. That's the beauty of a split doubleheader.
Could have lost ground, John.
But lost the ground.
Lost ground.
No, they actually did. They gained ground.
Did they?
Gained
a half game.
They were 2.5 games back yesterday. They're a game and a half now.
There you go.
Either way, it's pretty clear that as a team that's been shut out in 3 of their last 4 games, and they've wasted some damn good pitching. I mean, that Rays series was just such a backbreaker. And I think when you lose to like the Dodgers or the Yankees, we could just talk payroll and say, well, margin for error. When you lose to the Rays like that, it's like, oh man, that's the type of team that we feel like we're in a brotherhood with, and it's like a mirror image in many ways. And so it's really disappointing, and we're wondering. We thought, hey, getting back their guys healthy was going to save the day. And so far, it is very early, but it has not saved the day.
I was really curious about this series with Cincinnati, too, just because they can't hit the baseball either. So I wanted to see, okay, of 2 teams that can't hit the baseball, how does this shake out? Yesterday turns out to be a split doubleheader. You win the game that I actually thought you weren't going to win. Then you lose the game where Gavin Williams did what Gavin Williams did. Bizarre time for the Guardians, right? They picked an interesting time to show just how bizarre of a team they can be, because the trade deadline's next week. Like, what do you do?
And with every team in the playoff hunt in Major League Baseball, like, who's looking to unload? I did hear, maybe it's a conversation for later in the week. I heard one baseball podcast. We had Justin Latta on, and they shot it down, but they're like, well, could they trade Quan? Did Quan juice up any interest? And if they really don't believe in him and think that this is just kind of an anomaly his last month, and they have all the internal metrics on his struggles and his bat speed and the fundamentals and things that have gone south, like, could they try to capitalize on this hot month and deal him?
But at the same time, are there going to be teams that want to line up and deal for him just because you got to extend them? What's next year look like with the collective bargaining agreement, and if they could even play baseball next year? They picked a really fascinating time to have this roller coaster ride go down.
49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan was in a car accident 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that answers the tease. I think a lot of people were texting me, blowing me up, and saying, Anthony, I got to say, I have not gotten this information. Is our coach okay? Todd is okay. Is Mike McCarthy okay? Like, what's going on with these other coaches? And so, fortunately, you just paid off the tease. Thank you, John.
It was originally reported that the 21-year-old woman was at fault, but Shanahan revealed in a private interview with a bunch of reporters, it wasn't on camera, but it was revealed that he was at fault. He was actually reaching for his phone. It fell off his dash. He wants to say he did want to admit that he was not on his phone. He did crash into the woman at 20 miles an hour. But this is what San Francisco 49ers reporter David Lombardi of the San Francisco Standard had to say about the injuries.
He showed us a photo of what he looked like in the hospital shortly after the accident, and it quite frankly was horrific. He had a massive gash that just narrowly missed his eye. The concussion is the biggest residual issue. Music blaring at practice or multiple people talking to him at once, that really gets him. He also says it's tough to make big decisions right now. So when his wife asks him, what do you want for lunch? It seems like a heavy decision, but he did emphasize that things have already gotten a lot better.
Audio courtesy of KRON in San Francisco.
Well, they can just tell the crowd when they kick off their season, just everybody's got to be quiet, right? Like, you could deal with that at a football game.
Yeah, have George Kittle do one of those videos with his finger over his mouth.
Yeah, quiet. They put it up at Brown Stadium. Quiet offense at work. Like, and quiet then, coach was in a car accident.
And then take the decision-making away. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Take the decision-making away and just script instead of the first series. Kyle Shanahan, who's better at doing that stuff than it.
Pretty sure they have to fly to Australia to kick
Well,
off
we'll get to that in a second, Owen.
It's a big flight.
It is a big flight.
Can you make that as a drive?
I don't know. Could you get there?
You travel by map like the Muppets do.
Ferry boat.
Maybe 10,000 years ago. I don't know. The Bering Strait.
If he leaves this week, he can get there in weeks.
So, to me, obviously, this is a big deal because when I wanted to do a draft 3 years ago, an NFL draft where you could have any player, any coach, any decision maker, and put him in the draft. And when I did this with Ken, he's like, well, the quarterbacks would go first. And I said, I would take Kyle Shanahan like fifth. He couldn't believe it. And I'm like, because he could get any quarterback to the Super Bowl. I mean, if you could get Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy to the Super Bowl, then why would you draft a quarterback ahead of him? Anyway, we got into a big fight about it. And it was a lot of fun, but it shows you what I think of Kyle Shanahan. If I'm Kyle Shanahan, honestly, I might walk away from the 49ers situation this year. I do not think, and walk away from that nuclear reactor site that's right on the field. The substation. I'd probably get rid of that.
Unless it gives you a power of overcoming a concussion.
It's basically Chernobyl right there by the practice facility. I would get out of there and do a Sean Payton, pick your next spot. The whole league would do whatever if you thought the whole league was desperate to go after Deshaun Watson when a third of the teams went after him, I'll just tell you right now, every team, even teams with successful coaches would be like, yeah, but we could have Kyle Shanahan.
And that kind of happened this offseason. So maybe it did set a precedent where you saw teams like the Steelers, teams like the Ravens were willing to part with their coaches just because the crop of coaches that were out there. And then other teams started firing their coaches just because, hold on, wait, maybe we could get Harbaugh. Maybe we could get Tomlin.
Right.
So, yeah, it is fascinating.
All right, John, we're out of time. What didn't you get to?
Mario Hezonja, that deal may not be going through. Real Madrid might want him back.
We might need another private eye investigation on this because both of Nick Padone, yesterday, we were running various European articles through all sorts of chat GPT.
I couldn't read it, so I had to throw it in AI. It was in a different language.
I was on my Rosetta Stone for hours yesterday trying to figure this out.
My European Times Picayune.
I was asking Grok, hey, explain what this means to me.
So we might need a thorough investigation on whether the Cavs' big offseason move so far is not actually a move at all. Plus, we'll have Chris Feeder on at 9 o'clock. But next, Zach Jackson joins us on day one of Browns training camp on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. It's Anthony Lima.
Audacy app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
All the hits, grunts, strains, and sprains. Training camp coverage like nobody else. The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. 92.3 The Fan.
We are looking for a winner. Connie time. Enter the code word Crushers, CRUSHERS, at 923thefan.com before 9 a.m. Your chance to win 4-pack of tickets to 92.3 The Fan Night with a Lake Erie Crushers Friday, August 7th. Forefront Field in Avon. Ken and I will be there along with Nick Wilson and a host of others, taking over all the in-game fun, including the first pitch at 7 p.m. Tickets on sale right now, lecrushers.com. Brought to you by the Crushers and Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
This just feels like the same old Browns. Denzel Ward, who's the antithesis of the guy you had to trade on June 1st. You just do what the same old Browns always do, which is just give him more money and move along. If Denzel Ward plays 3 more years at a high level and the Browns can put competent offense around him, then this was the right thing to do. But the Browns are rebuilding. This is almost inarguable. To make this kind of commitment seems like it's going to stick out like a sore thumb on the cap sheet later. The same old Browns don't care. They just spend. They don't win, but they spend.
Zach Jackson and Friends podcast, and now appearing to talk about the Denzel Ward move and so much more on the Wise Heart Right. We make it right, call Kyle Right hotline. It is Zach Jackson from The Athletic, and from that very pod that I woke up to, I could not wait to sink my teeth into it. I thought, hey, it's Browns optimism, day one. Here we go, Brownies, here we go. And then I heard that. Zach, your thoughts?
Ken is out, so you turn into the one making me the bad guy when I come on your bad show. I get it. It's all fair.
Had to do it.
It's all good, buddy. No, first of all, I'm just glad the microphone worked. And secondly, I know that's not your favorite part of the podcast. That was about the context of the video clips that'll start later this afternoon. I thought about you, actually, when I did that. But look, I'm not trying to poo-poo it. Denzel Ward is what you want as a player and as a person, right? I found it strange because I had just thought that they would continue to tear this down and move along, because I think that's the right thing to do. So maybe I'll be proven wrong. And I don't think this team necessarily has to be the worst team in the league, but the way I read it, and especially June 1st reinforcing it, is this team wants to be the worst team in the league because it needs to get its quarterback next year.
Zach, could their thinking here, though, be that they've done enough to try to stockpile those assets towards getting that quarterback already? They've traded back in back-to-back first rounds. They moved on from Myles Garrett for Jared Verse and those, 3 draft picks. Could it just be that they feel like, hey, we're in a position based on everything we've done so far to get that QB next year anyways? Let's keep Denzel and go from there. Or are you looking at this differently?
No, I think you can look at it that way, Nick. I think there's danger in that because the Jets already have 3 first-rounders and because it might get crowded at the bottom, right? And I don't really think that necessarily anyone was ever coming in saying outright we're just going to try to lose, because the head coach has made it clear that that's not his goal. So, yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. They do have 11 picks. They have stockpiled. I think you don't want to finish 7th. I think you either want to be really good and say, hey, this rebuilds ahead of schedule, which happens, right? Like, there's precedent for this happening faster. I don't think it's happened here yet, but otherwise you need to be in those top couple of picks or you're going to just pay more of a price. And, it's a great question. It's a debate that could go on. I'm just going to say I'm surprised by this. Because when you trade Myles Garrett and when you embrace being the youngest team in the league and being more than a year away, I just saw Denzel Ward in year 9 as a guy that you could move for another asset. They didn't want that. Denzel didn't want that. I think more than anything, I didn't say this on the podcast, I think Denzel leveraged this perfectly with the Myles situation. Pay me or trade me. He got paid.
Well, and as we know, Myles, who asked out, then a year later, or then signed a contract immediately, then a year later does get dealt. Does this mean for sure that Denzel is not getting dealt, or do we have to wait until the contract specifics come out, which we always find out after the fact?
Right. We haven't seen the contract specifics, but I think it's fairly fair to say he's not getting traded because they could have just, started to do this and they didn't need to put the money up front. So I think it's fair to say that, and Denzel didn't want that. And look, he was already like a Brown for the ages, and he's been nothing but productive. And I hate when people say that he never plays because he's never missed more than 4 games in a year. He's missed 3 games in 2 years. Like, the guy's been pretty reliable. Does he have a concussion history? Yes. Has he been pretty reliable and always productive? Sure. So I get that. I just wonder if they're going to end up having mismatched timelines again, and they're going to go about a half rebuild again.
Well, what about just having somebody, if you're Todd Monken, you want to have some veterans and some guys that do things the right way, that approach, the daily grind of an NFL season the right way. Is there some merit in that, and also balancing the fact that maybe teams weren't lining up to send first-round picks for Denzel Ward at this stage of his career?
No, there is something to that, and I'm not trying to poo-poo that. And I don't think they were ever getting a first-rounder for Denzel Ward. But I just think if the situation was right, you can't say, well, we don't have anybody behind him. You can't worry about that. So, Tyson Campbell's kind of in line for an extension, too. He's signed for 2 more years, but his number starts to balloon after this year. And you would love for him to be a hit on a trade no one saw coming, and maybe he will be, because I thought he played very well last year in difficult circumstances. So I'm not trying to say this is an awful move. I'm just saying it's surprising because I don't see the timeline of the player and the team matching up. Now, I think the previous trade was much more about those timelines not matching up. So maybe it's just 2 completely different circumstances, and the Browns feel like whatever they get from Denzel Ward for 2 more years, 4 more years, whatever, is going to be worth it, even if, they don't get to flip him for another asset. Like, I just think that if you're not 25 and you're not under contract for 2 years, that the team should trade you. That's all I'm saying. And I know that if you lay that out and make the argument against me that Denzel Ward as the person and the player is the easiest way to do it. And so that's probably why they did it now, right? Create some good vibes into camp and try to make people forget for 5 seconds what's going on at quarterback.
Zach, well, that's exactly what I want. Where I want to take this conversation is exactly what this Denzel Ward extension means for this coming season. Just because that defense has had a little bit of a change. It's not Jim Schwartz anymore. It's Mike Rutenberg. It's not Myles Garrett anymore. It's Jared Verse. And obviously Denzel Ward is that cornerstone that's been around for a really long time. Todd Monken says, repeatedly that they want to win games. It's all we're hearing from all angles. The offense is going to be a work in progress. What's your belief that this defense can stay a top unit in football despite the big changes to the defensive coordinator and Myles Garrett, even though now we know Denzel Ward will be a part of this thing at least to start the season?
Yeah, I think this defense can be good again and probably will be good again. Now, top unit without help from the offense, I don't think that part's repeatable. And one guy who has 5 sacks in a game and keeps you afloat, or at least should in theory, he's gone. But I absolutely see a path here, Nick, that to where the defense plays well early and Quinshon Judkins runs early, and they have a chance to win games and build some momentum. And that's probably what they're thinking. Now, I don't think that this extension really is weighed against that first 4 or 5 games. Like, I think those are kind of 2 different things, that's building blocks. But yeah, they've got nice pieces. They committed to Alex Wright. That was the sensible thing to do. They have invested heavily at defensive tackle, and we'll see how that shakes out with Malik Collins coming off of injury and Mason Graham coming to year 2. But they certainly have way better defensive pieces and offensive pieces and more proven on some level. Like, if Schlesinger is really the next Kuechly, then this defense is just always going to be good, right? So to win games, you're going to need it to be great and get into takeaways. So, yeah, I don't think that's something you can really tell necessarily in camp, right? Because you're not adjusting to certain weeks and certain things, but you're just trying to set who you want out there. And so what this move does is it moves the Delpit situation to the forefront. You have McNeil Warren, who you really like, who basically missed the whole spring. So, what's he going to be best at? And then if you do need depth at corner, where do you find some? They signed Damari Mathis for nothing. He's a guy that really hasn't played much at all in a couple of years, but he's played and played outside corner when he has. Miles Harden was decent at slot corner. They didn't use him a ton. So a lot of things to figure out. But, yeah, I think overall the defensive pieces are good, and there's a pathway to it being really good. But, they traded away the best player in football, and there are still some questions across.
Zach Jackson with us on the hotline. Are you going to be like Todd Monken when you show up today and try to take an unbiased view of the quarterback situation, leaving everything you've seen and know about the quarterbacks, leaving that in the past and turning the page forward to give these guys an actual open competition and an open chance?
Sure. I mean, the problem is when you watch Watson, you can't get past what it was because that's what it looks like again. And there's just no reason to put him out there for a team that's trying to move forward. So, and that was kind of my whole thought with this is why not use this year and next year to just get this money off the books and go forward. So, but no, I do think for the most part that it's a very close open competition. And I think that it will go for 4 weeks, and maybe someone will pull away starting later this week and into next week. And that guy will be named the starter. But based on what I saw, especially the way that the spring ended, I will not be surprised if this goes all the way to and through the Buffalo practice and the second preseason game before they settle. And at that point, there's still 3 weeks before you play a game. So you have chances to do that. But yeah, these 4 practices, the acclimation days, we're going to see the next 4 days. I believe Todd Monken when he says it's going to be the same 50-50 split or darn close to it that we saw in the spring. And, I believe him when he says I'm going to play the guy that gives us the chance to score points and the best chance to win. And so I think that he's foolish for being unburdened by the past and thinking that Deshaun Watson can go out and play at any kind of high level because we just haven't seen it. But I understand what he's thinking there. And if he really is the best choice, then they're going to have to deal with the consequences later. Because, it's just, if he's the best choice in 2026, then it's just, what are we even talking about here?
Zach, is there any way for fans to really get a read on which way this competition is going? We're going to be inundated with grainy cell phone video of all of these throws and different charts showing who completed what and how many touchdowns and interceptions each and every day. But how does the fan really figure out who has a leg up in this competition?
It's an interesting question to me, but it's a simple one. By the time we get to Saturday and to next Tuesday, have the reps changed? Is one guy getting the bulk of the reps with the number ones, and is that carrying over from one day to the other? I think that is going to be way more telling than any context-free video or any chart that pops up on the internet. I just think that's the way to go because that will indicate that the coach thinks that he's getting ready. And any training camp at really almost any level, Nick, you have to do training camp things and you have to take the first days to make sure everyone knows the playbook and is accounted for and is going hard. But after that, you're really trying to get ready to win a game. And so I think that will be the tell if it changes. And if it doesn't change, then that will probably not be a real strong indicator. But I do think that they are prepared to let this go. And I'm surprised there's only one joint practice the entire summer. And it's not until August 20th, I believe, 2 days before the preseason game. But for a team that's young and completely new on offense, and I don't know, partially new on defense, but really new at some key spots, that's okay because that the 4 weeks of camp are important in the whole building process, just like the 10 weeks of the offseason were important to the QB competition. So we don't really know where it stands because these early practices weren't open and we weren't in the meetings and all of those things that probably, set the tone for the early quarterback competition. We got to watch, they have 16 practices or 15 practices, and we got to watch 8 or 9 of them. So we just got impressions there. But I think, as the reps change, if they do, will be the biggest tell.
Zach, did we waste an entire segment on Baker Mayfield earlier today talking about his future and maybe coming back to Cleveland?
Yes, you did that. But this is July radio, baby. And until this team has a quarterback, then any discussion of any possible path is at least somewhat viable. I mean, look what's happening out there today.
Well, one final note, and I think you and I are both in the same boat that we've probably talked and thought about LeBron James more during our lives than we'd care to admit to our families. With that said, how stunned now a few days removed or almost a week removed from his decision not to come back to Cleveland for the storybook ending were you?
Surprised, maybe borderline stunned. going back 4 or 5 days. Not now, not about the decision. I just thought at this point the team LeBron would be smarter than that. And I liked how they handled the letter and let him be heartfelt, but put that letter out on July 2nd and give a nudge that it's not going to happen. So I thought that was poor, and I think that later that's going to cause some salty feelings, especially if the Cavs are good, especially if the Sixers are good. Like his last time playing in Cleveland, he might get booed by half the place. So what does that mean in the big picture? I still think LeBron and the Cavs and LeBron and Northeast Ohio are going to be fine. But I thought they handled it poorly, and I would have given them much different advice.
Wait, none of his high school teammates were in your DMs telling you, bet on him coming home, put all your money in the prediction market?
My shady insider info comes from other places. So,
okay. And that's how Zach is living large, where he's living right now. Zach, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll see Zach out there later today at camp. All right, some interesting follow-ups to what we just heard from Zach. Went over the Denzel Ward thing, but I thought it was fascinating how he talked about the quarterback situation and Deshaun Watson. He is not very optimistic about seeing Deshaun Watson, especially if he wins this quarterback competition. We'll get to more of that straight ahead. And Chris Fedor joins us at 9. Turns out the autopsy on LeBron's decision-making has not ended yet. We have new information about how strongly Rich Paul and LeBron James considered the Cavaliers. That's all coming up later here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Anthony Lyon.
even traffic.
July could make or break the Guardians season. Talk about the Guardians anytime you want. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Denzel Ward is what you want as a player and as a person. I found it strange because I had just thought that they would continue to tear this down and move along because I think that's the right thing to do. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, and I don't think this team necessarily has to be the worst team in the league, but the way I read it is this team wants to be the worst team in the league because it needs to get its quarterback next year.
And obviously, if Ken were here, there would have been a fist fight. He does not take too kindly to any talk of tanking, anytime an NFL team is trying to lose games. Like, he doesn't think that's possible. And then I don't even need Ken here, Padone. I could just go through the arguments because we've had them so often over the years. He'll say, well, no players are tanking, no coaches are tanking. And to that, he's right. Like, it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. Combat sport, these guys are, putting their bodies on the line. They're not trying to lose. We've heard the debate.
But front offices also know, typically, when you put a very young football team on the field, you play a lot of young guys, and you don't have your quarterback situation settled, what do those teams do?
They lose.
They lose. Almost exclusively lose. Now, we've seen examples of teams win games that you never thought were going to start winning games. And let's be honest, the New England Patriots, just a couple of years ago, were a joke. Were a total joke. They didn't have anything settled. Their head coaching situation was a disaster. And then they go and draft Drake May. Next thing you know, they're in the Super Bowl.
Off to the races.
Yeah. The Seattle Seahawks, a little bit different, but they're young.
Yep. They lost Russell Wilson. Remember that?
Yeah.
And there were a few down years. Not many, a few. And they were able to quickly rebound. Obviously went through, Geno, Sam Darnold. Off to the races. So there is a path for the Browns to get off the mat here. And everybody knows what it is. It's drafting a quarterback and hitting on that quarterback in round 1 in April, or if Shedeur Sanders can be your quarterback. Because I did agree with a lot of what Zach said just about the decision to potentially put Deshaun Watson back at that starting quarterback position. Lima, I agree with. What do you gain from it? What could the Browns possibly gain from starting Deshaun week 1? I can't really think of anything other than.
So you said the Browns. What did you mean by the Browns? I swear I'm not being difficult. Who makes those decisions? So what do the Browns stand? Are you talking about the organization, or are you talking about Todd Monken?
I'm talking about the organization. What do you as an organization stand to benefit from putting that guy back at QB1? I get what Monken has to benefit, because if he could reclaim some form, Monken stands to get a lot of credit. Look at what he did in his first year as a head coach, got Deshaun Watson's career back on track. I get why he would potentially want to start a veteran over a 5th-round draft pick that, is still learning life in the NFL. I get it through the Monken lens. But through the Browns lens as an organization, why? Why do it to yourself again?
All right, so we've gotten a chance to talk to Todd Monken, and you'll see him out today. And when fans are able to finally get out to camp, when is the first practice they're going to be?
I think Friday. I think it's the 31st.
All right, it's the first thing they're going to notice is how into coaching he is. And that's going to sound like I'm bashing Kevin Stefanski. It's just two totally different styles.
Yeah.
And by the way, there are different styles that work in the NFL. You see plenty of reserve guys that have won. You've seen plenty of, crazy talking guys that can win here and there. So it's just they went completely opposite of what they had previously. And I do think that's going to inject a lot of energy. But you'll see it. Like, Todd Monken is going to get in the face of his guys. He's going to be coaching them up. He's going to be throwing guys under the bus. I know he said, hey, we have 2 really good quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks on this team. Wait till you see him evaluate guys after a bad joint practice.
Well, he also used the word embarrassing to describe the quarterback play in OTAs when interceptions happened in 7-on-7. He was really mad about that, dude. But he was mad that they were throwing interceptions in 7-on-7 with no pass rush. He said that's embarrassing. He used the word embarrassing.
The term embarrassing. Yes, because it is embarrassing. So, I think we're going to get the real Todd Monk. He's waiting his whole career for this. He's not going to kowtow. I don't think there's going to be a company line. And I think, by the way, I think Andrew Berry and the team, I think they're fine with that this year. I don't know if that would be the case in 2 years, but I think this year he gets his very first chance to be a head coach. And I honestly do believe he is not going to let the front office dictate this decision. I think he is going to pick the best guy. I think people like me and Zach, and I've heard Ken say it, Daryl, we had Coach Riz on yesterday. Coach Riz was the one detractor. I mean, he was basically like, no, because he's thinking like a coach, like you're going to pick the guy that's just better right now.
Right.
And we're all like, well, who cares if Deshaun Watson is a little better right now? Who cares about that? But Todd Monken does. Todd Monken probably does care about that.
Yeah, Todd Monken wants to win games this year. If Todd Monken only wins 3 or 4 games, 4 or 5 games, you and I both know the type of conversations that will be had. We won't even need a rundown in late December.
The entire month of December, that's what we're going to be talking about.
If the season doesn't go his way. So I get why he wants to win. And if he thinks Deshaun can help him win, okay. It's just the last time that we did this, when Deshaun was fully healthy, and we finally thought, okay, we're going to get a real view at what this trade looks like, was 2024. There was no injury in 2024. He was healthy in that training camp. And everybody just kept referencing if he could do what he did in the second half of that Ravens game, we could really be onto something. We could really be off to the races again. And it didn't happen. He wasn't just bad, Lemmy. He was laughably bad.
He was so atrocious.
In 2024, it haunts me in my nightmares. The game that he couldn't get the play out of the headset from Stefanski against Washington, and they called 2 back-to-back timeouts, and he still couldn't get it. And
that's as mad as I've seen Kevin.
And he walked off the field. That's as mad as I think I've ever been as a Browns fan. I freaked out in my living room. I was like, did this guy really just walk off the field of an NFL game where he was the starting quarterback? That's the guy that they're seriously contemplating starting week 1 in Jacksonville, week 2 at Tampa. What's the reception going to be week 3 when they finally come home against Carolina if he's the quarterback?
Is that part of the decision-making, is that they do start on the road, and you're not going to have to worry about the boo birds or, the same fan base that cheered his injury. Like maybe Todd Monken, maybe that's so far in the past. Let's go to the phones, 216-474-0092. Marcus in Aurora, you're next up on the Fan.
Hey, good morning, guys.
What's going on?
I got to give Barry credit. Last year was a complete tank job, and nobody really brought that up, and it worked like a charm. You got all those picks, and now the only real issue is who's going to be the quarterback, and I don't know. I think it's unlikely. I kind of agree with you guys about Watson, and I don't know how good he could be, but it was clearly a mismatch with Stefanski's offense, so maybe Monken's offense will help him out and make it easier for him. What if the Browns start out like 4-1 or 3-1 with Watson? I mean, how do you guys think the fans are going to react? I mean, what if the team is winning with Watson? They're going to have to abandon all the dislike for him, right?
No, I just think they'll be quiet. They'll be waiting in the wings.
And it's how it looks, Mark. It's how it looks. Like we've seen the Browns win before in spite of the quarterback. We just did a whole segment on Baker. There was times during the Baker era where even I, as a Baker fan, can admit the team was not winning because of Baker. Baker was just along for that ride.
Did you see the end of the year last year at Cincinnati and Pittsburgh at home? I mean, they won because of Myles Garrett in different ways. Like one game, Myles Garrett.
And Rocket Sanders.
And Rocket Sanders, of course. Nick Wilson, tip your cap. He loved Rocket Sanders. What do you have?
27 carries.
27 carries. But the Steelers game, like Myles didn't come close to a sack pretty much because why? Because they refused to let him. Yeah. And that's how they won that game. And then the next week, Burrow was like, I'm not playing like that. I'm not going to be a coward. And so the Browns won that game. Hey, I give credit to Shedeur on the last drive to get him in range. But let's be honest. I mean, that was a total defensive domination the last 2 weeks of the year. And, I've seen people talk about, tanking. The thing with Myles Garrett on your team was you couldn't tank.
Right.
Because he was single-handedly winning games. You don't have that as a problem anymore. Jared Verse is good. He's not at least that I've seen. It's been, just a couple of years. But I don't think he's so otherworldly that the Browns can win games where they're horrendous on offense just because they have Jared Verse. They did that last year because they had Myles Garrett.
I also think Browns fans are smarter now than they've ever been, and they know when they look at a quarterback if a guy has it or they don't. Like, I think Browns fan will be able to tell if they're winning with Deshaun Watson or if they're winning because of Deshaun Watson.
Are you sure about that? Because I got a bunch of people that were telling me that, Shador won those final 2 games of the year last year. Like, you thought that was good quarterback play? The 7 turnover-worthy throws he had in the Cincinnati game?
I do wonder if some of those fans, though, like the Shador fans that are Browns fans, not the Shador fans that are Shador fans that are now associated with the Browns, but the Browns fans that want to see Shador is part of the reason because you just don't want to see Deshaun anymore. Because I will be honest with you, Lima, that's part of the reason why I'm a big Shador fan. Because he's anybody but Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
He's my lottery ticket out of this mess. I don't know if he's good. I don't know if he's bad. We saw the dude for 7 games behind a horrible offensive line. Jerry Jeudy was so malcontent. He was clapping in his face like an absolute lunatic. I don't know if Shador is good. I don't know if he stinks. I know he's a lottery ticket out of this thing, though, and that is why I would put him on the field before I put Deshaun on.
All right, 216-474-0092. Are you like Nick Padone, anybody but Deshaun Watson? And when we come back, we have had a number of vehicle-related NFL stories over the last few months, 3 of them to be exact. Did you see the Tony Romo dash cam video? We will talk about that. And we've got Chris Fedor at 9 o'clock with even more new info rolling in this morning on the autopsy with LeBron James and what did and didn't happen with the Cavaliers front office as they try to rebuild things here in the offseason. That's all straight ahead. Sports Radio 92.3, The Fan. Anthony Lima for...
local sports talk in town. 92.3 The Fan. Powered by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. Sign up to be a part of the fan club. Download the free Odyssey app and follow 92.3 The Fan to get all of the best audio and best stories sent straight to your inbox. 92.3thefan.com.
Anthony Lima, Nick Padone is in for Ken Carman. We have Chris Fedor at 9 o'clock, and perfect timing as we've got even more from Rich Paul this morning. We'll get to that coming up next segment as we're still trying to get a full accounting of what happened, who's lying, who's not. Owen says he might have caught wind of some bad acting on that podcast. I can't wait to hear that breakdown. Nick, you had some news emerging from Atlanta. For those that don't remember, our old coach, Kevin Stefanski, he got fired here. And then he went and found another head coaching job, and he's with the Atlanta Falcons.
Falcons.
And they have a quarterback situation as well.
And their competition won't be getting started today at training camp.
Why not?
Michael Penix Jr. is still not practicing due to the knee injury that he suffered last year.
Oh, boy.
And Tua Tagovailoa showed up to camp with a sore back. So I immediately thought, are the Falcons really now a Dylan Gabriel suitor? The Browns have four quarterbacks here.
I love your thinking here.
Everybody's talking Watson v. Sanders. That's the quarterback competition. Gabriel versus Green is also kind of another mini quarterback competition in and of itself, just because they only have 3 spots. There's no way they're going to keep 4. And then Adam Schefter came in and ruined my fun and reported that the Falcons will be signing veteran quarterback Cooper Rush. So they opt for Cooper Rush over Dylan Gabriel.
Cooper Rush. I know it was 32 years old, 9-7 as a starter. Is that decent, just fill in spot starts, whatever. Everybody has just told me, and the reporting has been such, so I guess I just have to accept it now, that the Dylan Gabriel pick was exclusively that of Kevin Stefanski's. I've never seen that actually vetted and confirmed. That's just what people say. Now, part of it is I think that's just what people say because Kevin's no longer here.
Right.
And you don't want anybody that's currently here to be on the hook for that because then it makes you think worse about the organization than you already do.
You also just don't want to light a top 100 draft pick from a year ago completely on fire. Oh, yeah. And that might be what they're forced to do here in a short couple of months because they're going to have to make some math work in that quarterback room. And I don't know that teams are tearing down Andrew Berry's door with an offer for Dylan Gabriel. I thought maybe this would have given us an opportunity for that, but they opt for Cooper Rush.
Well, obviously Dylan Gabriel was abysmal last year, and in the same ways that Shedeur Sanders was put in a horrific spot. Let's be honest. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel might have gotten more reps or whatever, but set up for failure, I think, would be an understatement for him as well. The difference is I didn't see any signs out of the Dylan Gabriel experience. And then, of course, he got concussed. And then there was some weird thing with the fans like booing him when he came back late in the year for a play. That was just
it was weird,
ridiculous to me.
Because they didn't want to see Sanders get taken off the field. You also, in the middle of all that, had like the TikTok stuff with the fiance. I think that rubbed a lot of fans the wrong way. And there was just a lot that went into...
Well, hold on. Dylan Gabriel's social media, that rubbed people the wrong way, but they love Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson's social media.
You don't remember that about what the fiance said on the TikTok?
Yes,
that was a whole thing. Like, there was a lot just going on in that quarterback room last year. There's honestly a lot going on in it right now. Like, we have dueling documentary crews that will be out in Berea for each quarterback.
Yeah,
like
jockeying
each quarterback
for position.
has their own film crew.
Now, when Darryl Ryder has his brand new camera that he purchased, when he is going to be out there shooting, His head's got to be on a swivel.
He's got to have elbows out.
Yeah.
He's got to be ready for any twist or turn. I might have to throw a bow at Shador's video guy. I might have to kick a knee of Deshaun's video guy. He's got to get this video out for us here at the Fan.
Could our first camp injury be somebody affiliated with the broadcast, the production crew?
Could our first camp melee.
Camp fight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, well, I got duped earlier. I got duped totally. I saw, Mike McCarthy's first practice with Pittsburgh, an all-out brawl. So I'm like, producer John, get to the bottom of this. We need to know what's going on. And then he's like, no, it got community noted. You were duped. And then it got us thinking, like, do we need a camp fight today on day one? I always love talking about this with Ken every year. When do we want our camp fights? You got to have
I don't
some.
think you want a day one, though.
You don't want it with Jerry Jeudy and Shador Sanders getting into it.
We almost had that. That wasn't a camp fight. We almost had that like on the sideline of a regular season game last year.
That would be unfortunate.
No,
you don't want that.
You want that probably a couple weeks into camp when guys are genuinely tired of running into each other all over again. That's probably when the right time for a camp
when
fight.
the fatigue sets in, it's like I gotta.
And there's a real
90
and there's
degrees.
a real reason to start brawling. Like,
Those
what's the
punches
reason?
Don't pack a wallop.
No.
Unless, and we kind of talked about this as well between a break. If we want to go a little tinfoil hat, does Monken tell one of the vets, "Hey, go start a fight"?
That's
we're going to set the tone early in this practice.
I think that 100%. That Mike Vrabel would be all over that, and then he would be like bringing his Kirk Herbstreit version of his dog onto the field to make up for any controversies that might ensue.
We did say. There's not many vets. Like, if you were Monken, who are you instructing on this roster to start said fight?
Yeah,
I don't even know.
Who's the veteran that you rely on that you'd be good with?
I think it's pretty simple. It's not his guy, but Quincy Williams.
Ooh, yeah. Quincy Williams came in guns a-blazing when he got here. A vocal guy.
Tootin' Fresh and Fruitenberg's guy.
Usually like a D tackle versus an offensive lineman, but this is a completely unless Tevin Jenkins really just starts mixing it up.
Quincy Williams, Rocket Sanders, linebackers and running backs.
No, Nick likes
Rocket Sanders too much.
You don't want your guys
to question
fighting
the character of Rocket Sanders. This morning.
you don't want. You don't want a potential suspension or an injury for a guy you love. And Rocket Sanders.
I really like Rocket Sanders. I think he gave you some really nice touches last year.
I hadn't even thought of Rocket Sanders. It's been months since I even thought about him.
I love JP in that clip.
Okay, Ken would get mad at me when I would just summarily dismiss something he was really excited to talk about, as it's such a buzzkill and it's such a no-sell job. And I've been guilty of that. And Jonathan, he 100% was no-selling any. And I believe, Jonathan, that he does not know who Rocket Sanders is.
Or had thought about Rocket Sanders because their backfield is going to be Judkins and Sampson.
When we brought it up, though, earlier today, I went, well, let me go see what he did last year.
Okay.
And I pulled up the Rocket Sanders stats.
What'd you
right
unearth?
here, and it had his top 4 games right in front of me. They pointed him out, not just his season totals, but the top 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went, that's weird. Why did they do 4 and not 5? It's because he didn't play in 5 games. He only played in 4 games.
Okay, but which of the one touchdowns was your favorite?
I'd say it would be the one in which he went 3 carries, 3 yards, but did have that one touchdown, long of 2.
Is that when Nick fell in love with Rocket Sanders?
He said, well, you know what, we found something.
Week 1, and then he had several weeks off to get ready for his next appearance against Buffalo on December 21st.
You got to keep him fresh. I mean, a guy that you love like that.
He had 3.8 yards a carry.
He turned it up a notch.
2.6 the next week against Pittsburgh, and then the next week, 5.2.
Now, that's a flash of brilliance.
He had 5 carries for 26 yards and 14 of those on 1 carry.
He
but
did.
Still.
I'm
looking
excited.
forward to seeing Rocket Sanders.
I am too. Well, now.
I wasn't before this morning.
Yeah. I just hope this doesn't get in the way of like Quinshawn Judkins if there's like oh, man, we've been giving the ball to Rocket too much because we love him and Nick loves him so much. And then we forget about Quinshawn Judkins. He's not going to be happy about that.
No way.
All right. When we come back, Chris Fedor is
Rocket
on.
Fedor.
Now, Chris is a big friend and fan of the show. And I can't wait to talk about Chris on what Kobe Altman is working on right now. He's in the lab. Everybody's clowning the Cavs for their offseason. Then we've got a player from Real Madrid, or do we not have him? And Chris is here to set everybody straight on how this Cavs team is fooling everybody into believing there's inactivity. Oh, they are making some phone calls. Chris Fedor with the latest on the Cavs. Straight ahead, Sports Radio 92.3. The Fan, Anthony Lima 4. QC Kinetics, 97% of Cleveland patients are...
University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Leave the garage door open and turn up the fan. Spend the summer with your home for Cleveland Sports Talk. 92.3 The Fan.
Just had a good 8 minutes off the air about Tony Romo in the video that we watched. We'll get to that maybe later on in the show. A lot of stuff still rolling in when it comes to the Cavs because they clearly have not made their big move. It would seem on its face that their big move was to get LeBron James, and then maybe there would be more companion moves in addition to that, given whatever assets they have left, maybe a Jarrett Allen trade. But so far, right now, you have your exact same Cavaliers as last year, and minus Dean Wade, who started a bunch of playoff games for you, and minus Keon Ellis, who is no longer here. And so I heard this on the Game Over podcast earlier this morning. We have new information. I can't wait to get Chris Fedor's reaction to this. Were the Cavaliers ever truly going to talk to LeBron James? Listen to this.
Now, you tell me, Rich, if I'm right or wrong. The Cavs front office group, Kobe Altman, Brandon Weems, the Gilbert family, meeting with LeBron in Akron in early July.
Wait a minute. How did you know about that?
I couldn't say.
So you thought this got by Shams, but he has all the details.
I thought it got by Shams. No, he never said anything to me about that. Nobody knew about that.
You know the history of LeBron in Cleveland, what he means to that organization, and that's probably why it was told to me off the record. If that were something that got out, it does lead on a little bit.
Apparently, Shams didn't want to part with that information, didn't want to hurt the Cavaliers fan base, and yet I feel like the Cavaliers fan base is hurt by that. Owen called it some of the worst acting he's ever heard. I want to get the thoughts of Chris Fedor, Cavs reporter, Cleveland.com on the Wise Heart Right. We make it right. Call Kyle Wright hotline. Chris, you heard that this morning. What did you think?
Every reporter is going to reveal what they feel like they want to reveal. I had heard a few different places from people that I didn't consider reliable enough to verify. But it wouldn't surprise me if LeBron in Akron met with Brandon Weems, Kobe Altman, and the Cavs front office. It would not surprise me if that happened. I do think LeBron has a deeper relationship with this organization based on all of the history between him and this organization, the 11 years. With this group, but Shams decided that he didn't want to put that out there, and that's on him to make that decision.
Chris, does that make this whole LeBron picking Philly over Cleveland and Miami sting for the Cavs a little bit more then, if it is true? Because if they had a direct meeting with LeBron and some members of the ownership and Weems and Altman, they probably had to feel pretty good that was working in their favor, at least in early July, right?
I mean, guys, I do think that the Cavs felt pretty good about certain aspects of their recruitment process of LeBron, and I think they felt pretty good about where they stood with LeBron and why he would potentially choose them. But you can't force a free agent to pick you just because it's good for you, just like you can't pick a certain player to become available via trade because you desperately need a two-way wing that can guard and shoot threes and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, I think there were draws to Cleveland from LeBron's perspective. The fact that it is home, the fact that he does have a relationship with the organization, the fact that the Cavs do on one team have 4 of the top 50 players in the game. But they didn't offer, in LeBron's mind, they probably offered a compelling argument, but they didn't offer the best argument. And that to him was Philadelphia. And I think there are a variety of reasons for that. I think some of them are basketball related. I think some of them aren't basketball related. I think some of them are legacy related. I think some of them aren't legacy related. And that was the hard thing, I think, guys, about this whole free agency process with LeBron is that nobody knew exactly what the driving force of it was going to be because they cloaked it in happiness. They used that term, and I think they used that term purposely, because they wanted it to be as vague as possible so that there wouldn't be any kind of potential backlash after the fact. You could just say, well, LeBron picked the place that was going to make him happy.
Chris, but LeBron's a guy that's been in the league now, entering his 24th season. Don't we kind of know that competing for championships makes LeBron happy? Having an influence in some basketball operations decisions makes LeBron happy. Like, we kind of do know some of the things that makes LeBron happy. Evidently, though, he liked what Philly had to offer in terms of Maxey and Jaylen Brown and Joel Embiid and Edgecombe better than Harden and Mobley and Allen and Mitchell here in Cleveland, right?
Do you blame him for that from a basketball standpoint? See, I think one of the things that LeBron was kind of wrestling with this whole time, guys, is that he is probably the smartest basketball player that we have seen over the last 20, 25 years in the NBA. And I do think there was part of him where his basketball brain was wrestling with his heart, because this is not the great basketball setup for somebody like LeBron. Like, this isn't to diminish what the Cavs have built here. This isn't to say that they shouldn't celebrate getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. This isn't to say that this organization is a disaster. But from a basketball fit perspective, does he want to play alongside two non-spacing bigs in Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen? Does he want to be the third option offensively behind James Harden and Donovan Mitchell? Does he want to have the same kind of responsibility defensively as he had early in his career, because James Harden's not guarding the opponent's best player and Donovan Mitchell's not guarding the opponent's best player if you're talking about out there on the perimeter? So who would that responsibility fall on? It would probably fall on LeBron. And then you ask yourself, okay, what kind of defensive team could the Cavs be with James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, and LeBron James playing 30 to 36 minutes a night? From a basketball standpoint, that doesn't sound all that appealing to me. Not for somebody who has accomplished as much as LeBron has, not for somebody who is as smart as LeBron is. Like, this doesn't mean that he couldn't figure it out here in Cleveland. He's a smart guy. He's been willing to sacrifice throughout the course of his career. He has fit his game alongside a lot of different players and a lot of different play styles, but I don't think it was seamless from a basketball standpoint. And I think he looked at Philadelphia and he looked at that situation and thought from a basketball standpoint, that was more compelling. The other thing that Cleveland doesn't offer that Philly does is he has a chance now to become the first player ever to win 4 championships with 4 different franchises. Of course that appeals to him. That's part of what his legacy is in the NBA. He's this guy who goes to these different franchises and he lifts them higher than they thought they could go, or he lifts them higher than they could go without him. There's always been an appeal. There's always been an appeal to be the guy that teams are winning championships because of. He did it in Miami. He did it here in Cleveland. He did it in Los Angeles when they were nothing. He went to the Lakers at a time where they were nothing and they had very, very little on that roster. And that was something that appealed to LeBron. And now he can go to Philly and he could potentially end a 40-plus year championship drought for that organization, for that fan base, for all of that history of that franchise. Yeah, I think that's something that appealed to LeBron. And Cleveland couldn't offer that to the same way, because the thing that he did for Cleveland in 2016, delivering that championship, that to me was the potential ender of the Cleveland championship, and it would be hard to top that in his own mind. So I think all of those different things, when you're talking about LeBron, you're always talking about multifaceted things. When you're talking about LeBron, you're always talking about things that are layered and they're complicated. And I think this decision, I think people are making it a little bit more straightforward because they're trying to explain it the best that they can. But when it's LeBron, it's usually not straightforward like that.
Hi, Chris Fedor joining us. You mentioned all these things that are going to be possible in Philly, although he's not going to be living in Philadelphia. There's been some reporting that he had gone to the Knicks. They said thanks, but no thanks. There's also what Rich Paul said had the Knicks not have won the championship, that it would have been the Knicks. So did we miss out on all of this? Was it always going to be something out on the East Coast? Is that just the next act of LeBron's life that he wanted to have? And if that's the case, couldn't he have just told the Cavs on moment one, sorry, thanks, but no thanks?
Did you want him to tell the Heat, sorry, no thanks? Did you want him to tell the Minnesota Timberwolves, sorry, no thanks? Like, this is a deliberation process, right? And I do think that there were aspects of the Cavs that were compelling. I do think there were aspects of the Miami Heat that were compelling. I think there were aspects of Minnesota that were compelling as well. But I do think it was interesting that, at this point, over a month ago, that Rich Paul went on his podcast and he did say there would be no board here if the Knicks didn't win the championship. And I thought that was a telling comment, and it started to make me think, hey, what kind of setup is very similar to the New York Knicks? And the answer to that question was Philadelphia. It was, from a basketball standpoint, from a talent perspective, and from the legacy thing that I already talked about. Because what would have been appealing about the Knicks, beyond the fact that Mike Brown is there, beyond the fact that it's a championship-ready roster? Well, it's New York. It's one of the historical franchises in the NBA, and he would be the one to put them over the top, potentially, and he would be the one to end a 50-plus year title drought, another 50-plus year title drought. That's something that resonates with a basketball fan base. That's something that resonates with a basketball community. That's something that resonates in the history books. So I think when you looked at what was Rich Paul saying about New York specifically and who has the same kind of setup, the answer to that was Philadelphia. And it's part of the reason why the day before LeBron made his decision, I actually went on the Sports Reporters with Jeremy Schaap, one of the biggest moments of my entire career. I was on the Sports Reporters with Jeremy Schaap.
On
no
ESPN?
92.3 The Fan.
Wow.
No, he does it on YouTube now.
Oh,
he does it on YouTube now. But
so does he say Jeremy Schaap YouTube?
Yes. Yes, the Jeremy Schaap YouTube, but it was still the Sports Reporters, and it still had the intro and all that kind of stuff. And my dad watched Sports Reporters all the time when I was growing up, so it was a big moment in my career, and please don't diminish it because it was only on YouTube. So I'm on that show, and one of the things that I brought up is exactly that, what Rich Paul said about New York and who fit that kind of setup. And I said, don't count out Philadelphia here at this point in time, because I think, again, there wasn't a perfect place that hit everything that LeBron wanted. There wasn't an easy, let's just go to Cleveland in 2014 and undo the smudge on our resume that is the decision, or let's go to Los Angeles in 2018 and play for the purple and gold, the allure of the purple and gold, the allure of the history, the allure of everything about that franchise. This was a little bit more complicated. It took more deliberation. It took some ruling out. It took some convincing of his family, I think. And that's part of the reason why it dragged on as long as it did. And let's be honest, LeBron loved the fact that he was back in the spotlight for basically the last free agency of his entire career. But I don't think he did anything wrong in terms of not telling these teams, because I do think the Cavs were in the equation just like some of these other teams.
Chris, in the fallout from this LeBron thing, the Cavs have gotten a lot of criticism for inactivity. They did sign, or at least they're intending on signing, Mario Hezonja to a veteran minimum contract. There are some online rumors and speculation that maybe that signing might not even be that easy because of Real Madrid might want to keep him across the pond in the Euro League or something like that. The Cavs are still intending on signing Hezonja, though, right?
They are, and I had a couple of sources reached out to me yesterday, and I asked about the situation, and I asked about whether the signing is in jeopardy and how likely it is that he stays overseas. I had one say it'll be fine, another one saying that we have no concern about this whatsoever. So I do think the feeling is from the Cavs organization that Mario Hezonja is going to be playing for the Cavs this year.
All right, good to know, Chris. But then what else is next? A lot of Jonathan Kuminga rumors that have spilled out into some other players that they could be pursuing. Saw Terry Pluto say Bruce Brown. Are they still having those conversations? It seems like their offseason is really just beginning. So I am a little hesitant now to criticize their inactivity when I still think there are going to be moves to be made that could happen all the way up until the start of the season.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just a matter of how motivated are they, guys, to do these kinds of moves. And it's the same thing when it came down to Giannis and Jaylen Brown and Kawhi Leonard and some of these other guys that were available that have already changed destination. The question is motivation. And the question is for the Cavs, when they get an offer that's in front of them or they have these discussions with these other teams around the NBA, they are asking themselves, right or wrong, they are asking themselves how worth it is when these deals are placed in front of them. And they ask themselves, does this make us a better basketball team? Does this give us a better chance against the Knicks, against the Indiana Pacers, against some of these teams in the Eastern Conference? And they made the decision to not trade Evan Mobley. They made the decision to not have conversations with Boston centered on Evan Mobley. They had conversations with Boston. It was about other players on the roster and other potential packages for Jaylen Brown. But the minute that they chose as an organization to not pull the Evan Mobley lever, that made things very difficult for them to significantly improve this roster. Because in terms of free agency spending, they don't have any. In terms of attractive, tradable assets that can be centerpieces of those types of deals, the only one that they have is Evan Mobley. Like, yes, they could make lesser deals involving Jared Allen, just like last offseason. They could have made lesser deals involving Jared Allen. And the offseason before that, they could have made deals involving Jared Allen. But there has to be one that they consider, this one makes us better. This one allows us to take the next step as an organization. It's just not that simple from their perspective because the value that Jarrett brings at both ends of the floor and what's available out there in the open market. So I think they're just in a situation where their chance of significantly improving this roster has seemingly passed them by. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't get players that would be additive. Jonathan Kuminga would bring length and athleticism and theoretical upside. Peyton Watson from the Denver Nuggets is somebody that I'm told that they've expressed interest in recently. He obviously would be the starting caliber small forward that they've been looking for, but none of these guys are Giannis. None of these guys are Jaylen Brown. None of these guys are going to have the impact that LeBron James would have had for them. So we feel relatively good about the roster that we already have here. We're coming off an Eastern Conference Finals appearance, and we don't have to drastically shake up this roster. And if they felt like they needed to drastically shake up this roster, it would have happened already.
All right, Chris, I could do this all day, but I know you're going to be excited to pay attention to the quarterback competition going on in Berea, so I'll let you get to that.
That's exactly what we want to be talking about now that this LeBron stuff is over. You guys should be thanking LeBron for actually dragging out his decision as long as he did.
We did.
Because
we thanked him.
One less day. Good.
Wow.
Good.
Wow.
One less day of talking about the worst quarterback competition maybe in the NFL in the last 10 years. And you know what other ones are in that same conversation? All the other ones that the Browns have had over the last 10 years.
Now just cheap shots out the door. All right, Chris, you go get back to Jeremy Schaap and what other old relics of shows that were big 35 years ago, and you enjoy that with your dad. Thank you.
Yes, you got it. See you guys.
Chris Fedor on the Wise Heart Right. We make it right. Call Kyle Wright hotline. It was a lot there on LeBron. James says LeBron didn't really owe Cleveland or Cleveland fans any kind of a heads up on this. Plus, he had more on the Hazonia news. We'll get to that when we come back on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
92.3 The Fan.
shape the South, and in a lot of ways, the country itself. Follow and listen to Gone South Season 5, an Odyssey podcast. Available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your shows.
If you can't get to training camp during the week, let our team be your eyes and ears in Berea for breaking news all season long. Trust Cleveland Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
All right, Owen during the break's been watching Chris Fedor's appearance on the Sports Reporters, which is still affiliated with ESPN, but also is only available on YouTube.
I would suggest to Chris that although he might have enjoyed it, his father might have enjoyed it. The comments. Stay away from the comments.
Which we may be reading later in the show.
We'll see.
Also, the Tony Romo thing, that's on there. We got plenty to get to. Nick Padone is in for Ken Carman. We got training camp starting today, so... we'll hear from Todd Monken a little bit later today?
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe we are going to get our first charting of the throws. The media, the collective media is going to be there.
Media.
Yes, the assembled media will be there today. I will be heading out there. Nick Padone says he plans on heading out there. And we will be breaking it down. So tomorrow you're going to be in with me, right? We'll have a full breakdown. We might go through all the reporting, all the video montages. And
just video. We might just go video by video.
We could do it. And then, of course, the videos that are going to be supplied by the players and their factions and their friends. Because it's not just, that's the one thing I notice about this. It's not just that the players have their social media, but they have their teams and the people that are in their corner.
So do we need a weighted point system where the person that put out the video actually counts for more, maybe if it's from a Mary Kay Cabot or a Darryl Ryder as opposed to Shador's camp or Deshaun's camp or even the Browns?
Yeah,
so that each throw can be counted for, maybe it was a completion, but it was a completion and it came from Dan Lobby.
You just have to know where the messaging is coming from.
Right.
Because it's going to color a lot of the takes, I think it is. So we'll be monitoring. As soon as we start getting stuff, we will obviously relay it to you. Stay tuned, 92.3 The Fan throughout the day. Locked and loaded as we get ready for football. Tidying things up as we just had Chris Fedor on. And I thought it was interesting. We played the clip. And I agree with Owen. Horrendous acting behind the scenes by Rich Paul, who sounded stunned that Shams could have known that the Cavs actually did meet with LeBron, but yet Shams refused to report it, despite the fact he's a reporter. And his take was that he refused to let us in on it because why?
Now, you tell me, Rich, if I'm right or wrong. The Cavs front office group, Kobe Altman, Brandon Weems, the Gilbert family, meeting with LeBron in Akron in early July.
Wait a minute. How did you know about that?
I couldn't say.
So you thought this got by Shams, but he has all the
stop it
details.
right there. Legitimate organic response, or he's looking at joining Maverick in Hollywood after this?
That'd be a little clap on the board or whatever. And
Wait a second.
Let's do that one again,
Yeah,
Rich.
Come on.
It was
take two.
Not the greatest.
Okay.
Want some more?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, he never said anything to me about that. Nobody knew about that.
You know the history of LeBron in Cleveland, what he means to that organization, and that's probably why it was told to me off the record. If that were something that got out, it does lead on a little bit.
But yet we ended up all getting let on. I don't understand the logic in what he's saying at all.
I mean, we got let on. Like, we saw the photos of LeBron with the whole St. V's crew, and Brandon Weems was right next to him. So, like, at that point, everybody kind of had an understanding of, okay, he's at least spending time with somebody in Cleveland's front office. Now we understand that there was a meeting with the entire front office.
And he said the Gilbert family. He didn't just say Dan Gilbert. He said the Gilbert family. I thought that was interesting. But then I wonder, why would Shams be so worried about, besides the fact he was told it was off the record, course, Shams could also say, I found out from other people. I found it from people within the Cavs. Like, he could just lie.
Right.
Reporters do that all the time, and they pit sources against each other to extract more information. Believe it or not, I once was a journalist. I used to exercise these tactics when I covered the State House. Shout out to the Lantern back in the Bob Taft era. So I used to deploy some of these tactics. But is that Shams basically saying he knew that LeBron wasn't coming to the Cavs? That's why he didn't want to lead them on? Could that be?
Maybe. I will tell you this, all of this audio and this whole story ends up making me feel even worse than I already felt about this LeBron thing, just because you had a meeting. Like, you had something that at least we're led to believe no other team had, right? Pat Riley didn't get to meet with LeBron. Did Bob Myers directly meet with LeBron?
They got to send voice notes. If you recall, Rich Paul said, all right,
big voice note record.
Like America's Funniest Home Videos, you have till the end of the hour, lock in your votes. America, lock in your votes.
You win $10,000?
Lock in your voice notes. NBA teams, let's go.
But the Cavs didn't even have to send a voice note, as it turned out. They had a sit-down, in-person meeting with him.
So you think they botched it? Is that what you're saying?
I kind of do. I kind of do. Because think of, I can't shake this feeling. LeBron is a sentimental dude. He's an emotional dude. He's aware of his legacy and all of that stuff. The stage was so perfectly set to have the farewell tour be in Northeast Ohio, to end the story here. Even if the roster fit might not be as good as Philly, this is a really good basketball team. They were 4 wins away from making it back to the NBA Finals just a season ago. The stage was set for a LeBron James return, and the Cavs couldn't get it done. Like, they had an in-person meeting with the guy in early July. That would have had to been after Jaylen Brown got traded, I have to imagine, right?
And that didn't sound like...
Because that happened on July 1st when Brown was traded from Boston to Philly. So you had an opportunity to land the plane. Maybe LeBron wanted some moves to be made, and the Cavs didn't do anything.
Well, that could come back to the Anthony Davis stuff. That could come back to the Kyrie stuff. Of course, you also have to get other teams to want to play hardball. Cavs are very strapped when it comes to assets. They don't even have their own first-round picks. I think they have like 1 over the next how many years? They have those pick swaps and everything. So asset-wise, they are very depleted. What they do have is Jared Allen. You know, Chris did say, like, what could you show to LeBron that you can materially make your team better? I've assumed all along they were trading Jared Allen. Not because I don't think he's good, but it's actually the inverse of that. It's because he's good that he is the one guy they actually could get value for.
Agreed.
And then you could shift your team, the makeup of the team a little bit. If you're saying that we can't run the team back, you have to be open to kind of shifting the composition of your team. And so in that, I would give up some of the great things that I think Jared Allen does if it means we can really elevate other areas of the team. Like right now, they've got nobody that can play point of attack defense at the level that you need to in the playoffs. Like Evan Mobley is a great defensive player, mostly inside. He is switchable, but he doesn't make perimeter players uncomfortable the way that OG Anunoby does. And I can go through all the contending teams. We don't have a player like that. Jonathan Kuminga is a player like that. You know, you have to give up something to get something if you don't have draft picks. And so that's the unfortunate part is like you'd lose Max Strus, Dennis Schroeder, whatever. But then what do you get in return? What kinds of assets? Could you get a draft pick in return in a Jared Allen move that could be used at the deadline? These are all things that could still happen. It's just maybe LeBron needed them on a specific timeline. And, oh, by the way, I need you to help out some clutch clients or some other guys I'd like to play with.
Yeah, and that's the way that it reads. And he knew, and LeBron probably maybe was a little surprised that maybe the Cavs weren't willing to give him that sort of control that he's had in Cleveland his last 2 stops here, where the GM can show up and pull those levers and get different clutch guys here. You know, maybe if it was Anthony Davis, okay, in the past 10 years ago, sure, we'll go and get you Anthony Davis if that'll make you happy, LeBron, but maybe right now they don't think that they're in a position where that makes long-term sense for them. I'm with you on the JA thing. If I could get an athletic wing in this Eastern Conference that has spent the entire offseason improving athletic wings, especially on every single contending team, I would do it. If I could move J.A., that clears the way for Mobley to take more of an active role in the offense, and people want to see him take this next jump. Maybe if Allen's out of the picture, Mobley's confidence is the lone anchor in that front court.
And you get some spacing.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. Again, I don't misconstrue this as why would I want the Cavs to lose a good basketball player? He's a good basketball player, but what do we know? Do we not understand how alchemy works in the NBA? Like, one of the issues I think they have, and even, by the way, for Darius Garland before and now James Harden, the two guards, if the ball is going to be in their hands, you have to have spacing.
Right.
Well, when they are running pick and roll, they have no spacing because you don't have to guard Evan Mobley or Jared Allen or last year Dean Wade. And all the other teams didn't have those spacing issues to the degree that you had them. And that is why I think they've got to trade Jared Allen. And I understand it's going to create other problems. But what is the alternative? Just running it back? Who wants to do that?
With Mario Hezonja.
Who, I don't know, Chris just said that Hezonja, they are still confident according to his sources. But when that story came out, Chris tried to debunk it and says we'll be okay.
They are, and I had a couple of sources reached out to me yesterday, and I asked about the situation, and I asked about whether the signing is in jeopardy and how likely it is that he stays overseas. I had one say it'll be fine, another one saying that we have no concern about this whatsoever. So I do think the feeling is from the Cavs organization that Mario Hezonja is going to be playing for the Cavs this year.
All right, you heard that from Chris Fedor earlier. Already talked about their inactivity this offseason if they were to lose Hezonja, who I don't think anybody's even seen in like 7 years. I don't know how devastating a hit would it be, but the narrative wouldn't be good for the optics. All right, when we come back, look, if this Browns quarterback thing, if maybe Shedeur Sanders seizes it, wins the job, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, the Browns are going to be playing big-time games, maybe the 4 o'clock window on CBS, maybe Jim Nantz and not Tony Romo. Oh, Tony. Bad golf round and things spiraling out of control afterwards. We have some sound from Tony Romo after he was pulled over when we return on 92.3 The Fan.
Brad Evans here to help that beat. UMGC, success is yours for the taking and the making, and nothing should keep you from it, especially not an application fee. Apply now and we'll waive your application fee. Classes start August 12th. Learn more at umgc.edu. That's umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chev.
Listen to 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn app.
All right, Padone, who's going to seize control today of this Browns quarterback derby? Let's go.
I love the reporting throughout minicamp that Shedeur came on strong. I love that phrasing, so I'll roll with that. I'll say Shedeur carries the momentum over from minicamp and continues to come on strong throughout training camp.
Owen, a thought? Do you have a gut feeling on this?
Well, we're definitely going to get somebody start preseason game 1 and the other one start preseason game 2. They're not going to know, and then...
Ooh, boy.
I agree. I agree with what Zach said, that there's no way in my mind that this thing gets sorted out quickly. Like, now that they've let it bleed into camp and it's not that they announced a starter right after spring, like, buddy, I'd be surprised if we know who the quarterback is ahead of those Bills joint practices. And then that's, week 2 of the preseason, you play Buffalo in Cleveland. Like, I'm looking at the earliest possible date where a decision could be announced after that week 2 preseason game against the Bills.
17 days away from opening up the preseason slate. Where do the Bears play? Are they in Hammond or Gary or Chicago? Where are they playing these days?
Muncie.
What is confusing to me is why Todd Monken, who didn't have to say anything about this, said at the start of all of this that he hopes to have this quarterback thing wrapped up before training camp.
Well, it's Indy, and I was there, Lyman, and when he said that, like after he said that, and the media is just kind of standing there, like everybody was kind of like wondering the same thing, wondering exactly that. Like, why'd he say that? like, are they really going to announce? And everybody just thought then, like, maybe it'll just be Deshaun. Maybe it'll just be Shedeur. But then when they floated the idea that, like, this is going to be a competition, it's like, okay, Mary Kay had the reporting that Watson had the inside edge on the competition. It's like maybe this is a, fake competition. They're going to let them compete, but it's really Watson's job. But then Sanders really did play well throughout minicamp and maybe changed some of the calculus of how they were thinking about this after the Myles Garrett trade, where I really do think it is a competition. And now that you've let it bleed into the, late summer, you might as well just take it through the preseason.
Well, I think joint practice is going to be a big deal, right? And I know they're only doing one with Buffalo, and then what else do they have? Because that one is going to be a biggie. That's
the only joint practice that they currently have scheduled is against the Bills, and it's during that week leading up to the preseason.
And doesn't it seem like almost without fail? I know we've had a couple of years here and there where people are like, well, Browns looked really good, and then it didn't bear out. But most of the time, I feel like that's where we get an honest assessment of where things are. Because let's face it, like what you're going to see is something's going to be good out of every 11-on-11 rep.
Sure.
It's either going to be great throw, great catch, or great defensive play, great job by the defensive line. So it's optimism, right? You can leave every play feeling good about the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
But what we know is that isn't the case at all when you get to a joint practice. It can all look bad. Because you're actually playing another team with a pulse.
Especially a great team in Buffalo. Yeah. Like, I am curious. Like, I get it is just practice. It's a joint practice. The coaches work ahead of time to identify, hey, what do you want to do? Okay, this is what we want to work on. But it is a measuring stick of sort, right? Like, if Buffalo comes in and just has their way with the Browns, I think we'll kind of know. At least our feelings about this season might have a little bit more confirmation behind that.
And then it'll be just, might as well start Shedeur. Regardless, just start Shedeur, and let's see how many weeks we can get out of him.
Start that up now?
I think it's
get ahead of it.
I think it's all gonna head down that path. I also wonder what changed, and was it for the better or for the worse? What changed from Coach saying in Indy what you heard him say when you were there, that he wants to have this wrapped up to, oh, here we go. We're going to be in the thick of it with a quarterback competition that starts day one of training camp? Is it that both were better than he thought? Or what's more likely? Both were worse than he thought.
That nobody impressed him enough.
Doesn't it have to be one or the other?
Well, especially because, obviously the media wasn't allowed every day of spring practices. We were only allowed there on Wednesdays during voluntary OTAs, and then there was 3 minicamp practices. They were both exactly what they've been. There were really good moments. There were really bad moments. So how does a coaching staff make sense of that?
Yeah.
What do we have here? There are a couple of good moments from each guy, and a lot of bad moments.
Hey, at least our guys can play. Kevin Stefanski's guys might not even be able to play to start out. All right, so I saw this. Boy, we continue to have NFL car situations.
I know.
We had it with Kyle Shanahan. We had it with Diana Rossini saving a family from a car, allegedly, and then turns out that might not have even been true. And now we have Tony Romo, who shot like a plus 35 over at the Wisconsin
so he did have
amateur.
a really bad round before this.
He had a bad round, and then who knows? Was there a 19th hole where he wanted to drown in his sorrows? He did not like anybody insinuating that because he left the golf course. Here was some of the dash cam footage that emerged over the last 24 hours from his OVI arrest.
Reason for my stop today is unsafe passing on the right, cutting across the gore. Obviously, the gore. Where are you coming from?
The golf course. And I'm going to meet Grandma and Grandpa.
I'll take a driver's license from you.
Got it.
How many drinks have you had?
0.
You're coming from a golf course?
I'm playing the golf tournament in the Wisconsin State Amateur.
Okay, I'm going to run you through some fields.
What's that mean?
Field sobriety tests. Are you willing to take any field sobriety tests?
Call my lawyer.
You're denying to step out of the vehicle pending fields?
I'm just going to call my lawyer.
Okay, step out of the vehicle.
I'm going to call my lawyer.
Nope, step out of the vehicle.
Trying to call his lawyer.
Step out of the vehicle.
Yeah, so he insisted on, hey, let me call my lawyer. Let me call my lawyer. Let me call my lawyer. And obviously was unable to do so. And then they took him back to the station where he ended up submitting to some of the field sobriety, but he referenced his numerous back surgeries and injuries and concussion history.
Stretched for quite a little bit beforehand. Which I would probably need to do as well. Especially after playing a round of golf.
Nobody comes out of any of these body cam things looking good ever. I did find the one line somewhat humorous where he said, just because I'm coming from a golf course, you're assuming I'm drunk. Because I have said that exact line to Cam at home before, just because I just got off the course. You're assuming that, we were drinking. I think all of us have probably said that at some point.
Look, I worked at a golf course, and, league nights and outings, and, there's some demolition derby there leaving the premises, and you're like, are you okay? Are you going to be okay? And then they'd come back the next week, so I assumed that everything was okay for the golf league. Romo here, I did see a lot of the reaction is like, oh, he's getting off. Like a lot of the wannabe internet lawyers are like, he's absolutely getting off. He doesn't look belligerent. He sounds fine. He sounds like Tony Romo. Right. See, this is where when you have years of sounding flighty on national television, Jim, like, okay, that's your base. That's your base level. Like, we can play that audio. Here's the Browns versus the Bills or the Chiefs back in, 2020 in the playoffs. Here you go. We can just play this. And then what do you have to compare it to?
Right, and he's down. So little. Wow. Not the catch. We'll see.
The line? Oh, well, golf course.
What is the rivalry called, Jim? The cities, Ohio.
The Battle of Ohio.
There you go.
There it is. Yeah.
Read Miranda rights. Why? Does he get off? Do we think he gets off? Is he going to be calling games this year? I saw some initial speculation that that's it. CBS is going to be done with Tony Romo. I don't think that's happening at all.
He's calling games this year.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario where he's not calling. He might be suspended in the preseason.
What do you think of the scenario of him driving he said it was his dad's car.
Yeah.
And he's going to meet grandma.
Like a Jeep truck.
And then they had to probably pick him up at the boy. That had to be
what a 180 that day
what
was.
a scene. All right, talking about that more coming up next will be Baskin and Phelps. Thank you.
They're doing 4 hours. I heard.
I think they are. Zach Jackson, we appreciate it. Amazing job by Chris Fedor. We're watching the Sports Reporters on YouTube with Jeremy Schaap. Is Bill Roden on that?
They were not.
Mike Lupica?
Not very nice in the comments.
Owen keeps
Just
saying
read
to
the
stay
comments.
away from the comments.
Yeah, forget about our
Ethan
YouTube.
Skolnick's on there.
Ethan Skolnick. Forget about our comments on YouTube. Go there. And Padone, you going to be here tomorrow?
I'll be here
All right,
tomorrow.
we're breaking down the quarterback competition tomorrow, 4 hours. We'll see you.
But you clap.
Hey, sounds good.
Where's your entourage?